I did the YouTubes. I almost did it on Twitter by mistake.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fun.
It was like telling me, it's
Yeah.
like, you're doing it on TK's Twitter account. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. When did I configure?
Wait, that's not
No,
how
no. So it's that T.
podcasting works.
Do you have that problem whenever you're in your browser and you start typing TW and you think it's going to Twitter, it goes to Twitch?
Yeah.
90% of the time I
Yeah,
go to
same.
Twitch. Yeah.
And
So
I find that it keeps like flipping on me too. Like whenever I want to go to Twitch, I seem to end up on Twitter, and whenever I want to go to
yeah,
Twitter, I
it's the
seem
other way
to
around.
somehow go to Twitch. Well, hey everybody, welcome to another two old guys talking about tech podcast. I'm Juan Carlos
Absolutely.
Bagnell. This is TK
Yeah.
Bay. Welcome to Best of Our Week, where we try to make it through the week. We succeeded. We've made it to Thursday. And we talk about what we thought was sort of the best tech. And hopefully we'll see in the chat people sharing what they thought was the best
Mm-hmm.
tech of their week also. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's I think today's going to be a real like
That's
low-key kind of show. We are both whooped.
I'm okay. I used to be able to handle jet lag way better. And when I say used to, I'm talking about a year and a half to 3 years, maybe right before the pandemic. I was a champ. I would
Yeah,
jump in,
you
jump
were a
out.
young stallion like 2 years
Absolutely.
ago.
And apparently there's that magic, God knows what number is. But yeah, so I was in New York for a couple of days, and literally it was just 2 evenings of not sleeping regularly. I come back home, and now it's going to take me 3 to 4 days to get back into my normal timing.
Yeah.
Like right now, I was telling Juan 20 minutes before the show started, I sat on the couch to just take a second. I almost fell asleep.
Yep. Can't do it. You can't stop moving.
It was going to
Can't
be
stop, won't stop.
it was going to be a one-man show. Yours truly. Juan was going to play both characters. He'll be like jumping from one side to the
Oh,
other.
I
But
would have
TK,
just tortured this audience. I'd be like, TK isn't going to join me, so everybody gets to watch me play Vampire Survivors for an hour, and then I'm
I don't
going
know.
to bed.
I don't know if that's
So
torture though. I feel like the group
my
that we have
Vampire
may actually.
Survivors game is pretty strong. Let me tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I've seen it.
There's
I
going to be
have.
a new update where they even have like if you can save up as much gold as the game will let you save up, then you can spend it all in one burst to do all of the upgrades for a single character.
Oh, just for a single character though.
Well, but that's so when I don't know how far you've made it, but once you
Not
unlock
a
like there's like
nothing.
a little guy who's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a merchant in
Mhm.
every level, and you can
Okay.
go to him and you can spend 10,000 gold for
Mhm.
a 0.01% improvement to all of those upgrades like
Okay.
skill and
Yeah. Yeah.
luck and might and
And
health,
garlic.
but it's 0.01. Not the weapons, but like the other skills and enhancements. And so you can go to him, and I think it's like 900 million gold or something like that. I don't know how much. Maybe it's 9 million gold. Whatever.
It's like
But
a
you
zillion.
can empty your entire bank account, and it will do all of the upgrades, all of those enhancements for one character. And apparently
gotta
you can
say-
let it play out in real time too, where it's doing like 10,000, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01 improvements to
And then you
all
keep.
of the things.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, getting notifications on on the Razer Edge. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. Got a chance to.
Yeah.
I'll say that I'm going to be honest, and I'll say this in advance before people ask. I did not bring my Steam Deck with me on this trip.
How
I purposely
dare
went.
you?
I purposely wanted to solely play
How
on the
very
Razer Edge.
dare you?
I know. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Well, I mean, so I'm of the philosophy that if you don't immerse yourself in something, you don't truly appreciate it. Like you actually have to use the tech when you make videos about it. So
That's interesting. That's an interesting philosophy. I feel like you would be more successful on YouTube if you just
with millions and
like
millions, with millions and millions of views. Yeah, no, I know.
yeah, you just seem to be. You know what I think you need to do is really just focus more on like your cinematography. Like maybe
Absolutely.
hire full staff and like go to like a legit
I was going to go to the
studio.
local college and then find the film
See,
crew.
there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Give them some
that's
intern
probably the way to
hours.
do
That's
it.
the best way to do.
That's
Summer's coming around.
free labor. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you can boss them around, and they have to come back. No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
we're seeing a great crew of folks in here who I know are much more sort of tech nuanced than that.
No.
We've got Eric himself. We've got Easy Computer Solutions. I was lurking in his weekly stream just before our podcast. We got Barry.
Of
We
course.
got Mr. Engineer Reacts himself. We got Jason C, Darren, Farhan, Steve,
Yeah,
Ron
yeah, yeah.
Guido, Scoop. Am I missing anyone?
I thought we
I
got
think
Jason and
I think
Hamid. Hamid
that's
is
who
in
we
there as
have in the
well.
chat
Our
right
buddy
now.
started our chat. Yeah, it's a
So
beautiful group of people. Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna like kind of bad posture kind of sink into my chair here for part of this. You guys get to look at this awesome double chin that I've got going on. Where do we want to start? I feel like
Ah,
the biggie for us is probably going to be OnePlus, right? I mean, have is that where we
I
want to
I want
begin
to
at the
say
beginning?
I'll say this. I think OnePlus should definitely be in my opinion at least. I feel like at least
Or
between
we could close it
the
if we think
11,
OnePlus is the stronger topic.
I
We
think
didn't
OnePlus is
chat
the
out any of
stronger.
this pre-show, so you're
No, no,
getting all
no.
the behind the scenes live right now.
I showed up late. Juan was sitting in there, so yeah. If anything, I probably would say this. We can knock out the Razer Edge. We can knock
Yeah,
out
we were just talking
the
about gaming. You want
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. I think
you want to do
that's the
okay.
perfect way to kind
But
of just
we'll start with Razer
segue
Edge
with
because
that.
I don't have one and I'm super jealous. And I
W-
do have a question for you in how well do you think this thing operates as not just a gaming solution, but like a fun little portable multimedia tablet?
So I'll take that. Okay, so from a multimedia tablet or multimedia consumption type of a solution, this is actually very nice, in the sense that so the variant. Just a little bit of a background. There's two versions of the Razer Edge. There's a Wi-Fi edition, and then there's a 5G enabled edition. Razer was gracious enough to give me a trial on Verizon's 5G network, and I do have the 5G
Nice.
variant of it. And for all intents and purposes, without when you take out the modem, essentially, where it gives us the 5G, the only difference between the Wi-Fi and the 5G is two additional gigs of RAM on the RAM configuration. So 6 for the Wi-Fi, 8 for the 5G, and that for the most part it's the same thing. Same 3GX, G3X, not 3GX, G3X processor from Qualcomm that was released, I think, last year, not this last year, the year before. And essentially it's a roughly about a 6.8 6.7 inch tablet, roughly about a 7-inch tablet, with the Kishi, a custom Kishi controller that comes with it that you right now can't buy, and it includes haptics on the controllers, audio jack, and of course still USB-C charging. So for me, what I ended up doing on this is I installed Netflix, I installed Hulu, and I didn't install Disney. I was going to install HBO Max, and I think that was where I kind of stopped it a little bit. I was traveling, right? So my biggest thing is
Sure.
watching TV, watching content when I'm traveling on the plane, and also I like planes. Actually, surprisingly enough, this thing was actually a lot of fun on the plane. I
Nice.
installed some PSP emulators on this, and I was playing God of War for the majority of the flight back. I'll be
Nice.
honest, on the flight to New York, I was editing video. I have
Yeah.
If you guys are
There was a lot going on.
there was a lot. No, there was a lot of content, and it's a weird situation, but like, I've been dealing with the PC problem at home, so my laptop is primarily my life source right now, and so yeah, sitting on the plane, going there, was editing on the way back. After the event was done, it kind of was a little bit of a relaxing, a little bit, afternoon. So long story short, media consumption absolutely fantastic. This has great sound. The speakers are actually pretty loud. They're stereo speakers facing outwards to the right and left. They don't front face.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Kishi does kind of echo back the sound because of the chambers on the side of the controller.
Nice.
If you guys have ever seen the
Kind
Kishi
of like
before you used it,
funnels.
funnels a little bit, yeah, and it kind of
Yeah.
directs the audio to you or at you better than when you're watching it just in tablet mode. And then
Which is funny because they got it right on their phone. I mean,
oh no,
I had
absolutely, yeah.
the Razer Phone 2 used to point the speakers directly at your face.
It not only
So it's
just points, it was one of the biggest,
kinda-
two of the biggest, yeah. The next bit Robin is configuration where the speakers were like massively front facing.
We're correctly oriented for
Yeah.
a multimedia experience at your face.
Exactly. And for that I will say that the Razer does a decent job for multimedia consumption. The display is really nice. It gets pretty bright. The refresh rate doesn't really impact it, but overall, like, it's a 1080p, a good resolution display. Speaker sounds good, and I would say because of that 5G connectivity, you could just watch it anywhere. So you're sitting in the airport, you're waiting, you can download content, load it up before you get on the plane. I did pop in my SD card in here to be able to get some of my emulations and stuff like that running.
Nice.
So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I wasn't focusing mostly on watching Netflix and Hulu on there. By the way, the reason
Mhm.
why I install always Hulu because I have live on Hulu, so I can watch the
Yeah.
local news wherever I am. So
Hmm.
and it's streaming. So the 5G connectivity in New York is solid. I'll say that
Oh, that's good.
they have solid, and because there's so many buildings, I was kind of worried. And where I had like the room was facing a wall of another hotel, so I felt like I should not be getting good reception. But it was actually pretty decent, even on C-band, on the C-band 5G, which is like around 500 or so. But yeah, I think it was so far. What I'm saying is, I'm impressed with the way the implementation is done. Razer's software does a very nice jumping into their launching software, so they have a software, not a software solution, but essentially a launcher. So
Hmm.
let me just do it. So when you're playing the game, you can play in regular, or you can go into their launcher. So you can just
Nice.
switch, and it's an easy jump in and out. They have a screen record button right on the controller. You can start recording your
Yeah.
content right away.
I
Like
feel like
think,
that's like table stakes now.
yeah,
Like
yeah, like
even on my game sir, I'll occasionally hit it, and you're like, oh, I just took a screenshot. All right, cool, but I guess we need to have that now.
so. I came back from New York and I found this.
Ooh, with the Peltier cooler. It's good. I like it a lot.
It's
It
like
is really
I
nice.
want to say like it's almost like Gamesters like, hey, homeboy wants to play with games.
Yeah, so Steve has a question. Is there
Yeah,
video output on the Razer Edge? Is this gadget a proper portable gaming console? I need to TK, he needs to know.
absolutely.
He
So
wrote it right there. But he did write it
that's
with
to
two
know.
dots at the end, so it's kind of a trail off.
It's
So I
like
don't
I
know
need to
how seriously he is.
know.
He didn't put an exclamation point at the end of
No,
it.
no, no.
So it's a need, but it's kind of like a I need to know.
It's like
Fade fade
fade into the
out,
question.
decrescendo. I guess I
As
need to know.
well, I mean,
I'm
on
feeling
a
that energy, Steve. That's how I'm gonna be.
I'm at that level right now. I might
Yeah.
don't do not play with the hello, and then you saw me like keeling over. It does
Right.
support
It's
video output.
lullaby time.
Video. I meant three, but I pressed the arrow.
Well,
Oh,
proper
oh, he
ellipses
meant to say
is
yeah,
three
ellipses. Okay,
periods.
yeah, it is. So
So yeah.
etc., etc., etc. Video output is supported, but is not supported through the controller. So you do have proper
Yeah.
video output on the USB-C. So if you just prop it up, take it out, and just connect it to a USB-C output into a monitor or whatever,
Great.
it does support video output, and it
Does
mirrors
it
the
have any
display
kind
guide.
of like fancy
I wish no.
rescreen orientation, no desktop mode, anything like that?
No desktop mode, full on screen. Hey, screen mirroring. I mean,
Screen mirroring, that's
is
good
is a plus. And I mean, and we'll get to that
uh,
conversation a little bit later with the other
for
stuff.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I just find it funny that I think like Asus is doing really good. Red
Mhm.
Magic now has kind of a console
Oh,
TV
I didn't.
mode.
Okay, good to know.
And
Good to know.
I still feel like the best implementation of this is Motorola.
Yeah,
And you're
ready
like,
for.
they're not really known as a gaming brand, but if you plug a Moto Edge into a TV, that's actually, I feel like, the best implementation of a gaming mode for console style gameplay.
The
Um,
categorization of Ready for is crazy good. It seriously it was done like they took some of the stuff that Samsung's been doing on their device on their DeX implementation,
no,
and they
but I
took it
just
to the
mean
next
like
level.
Razer was doing like Project Linda. They've been working
Yeah.
on gaming tablets in the past. I figure if any company was going to look at the alternative desktop video output mode built into Android and just give us a little polish to make that nicer, I would have
You would
hoped
have
that
hoped.
maybe Razer would do something like that,
So
but
the only thing
it's
I can
fine.
probably say is even though it does not have a desktop mode, but because when you jump into the game launcher mode, it actually does become a proper gaming experience. There
Hmm.
is a separate launcher, but it is also the native gaming launcher that you have built in here. Um,
Yeah.
I'll say for gaming experience right now, I've been playing a few things. I've installed a few Android games. I've downloaded, and I've also installed some emulation stuff. But I'm also trying to do leverage Xbox Cloud and
Yeah.
NVIDIA GeForce. So this is a very unique experience for me because I came from the Logitech. The Logitech is very much a streaming. I feel like it's a
Hmm.
streaming based console. The way it was configured, it didn't have a lot of horsepower. Right, it was never intended to be like a
So what
fully
comparably? I mean, like
yeah.
I feel one of the things that's been a little bit tricky to pin Qualcomm down on isn't
Yeah.
that the products are bad,
Hmm.
but using all of these different letter number combinations and some of these that overlap, like
Yeah.
8CX, stuff like
And this
that.
this is a good point of reference of what the G3X is. It's
So what is
1160.
that, like
So
roughly
1161.
888 plus territory?
I want to say. Hold on, what am I
Because that's
looking
a
at here?
little lower than like an 8 Gen 1.
No, it's a. I would say yeah, it's an 888 or somewhere between the 888 and 8 Gen 1. It was
So
released.
when
It was first announced around the 8 Gen 1 as a gaming
right,
specific. So yeah, that kind of
so
makes sense. Yeah.
it would have been like an 888 plus. Um,
Yeah.
so what kinds of games have you played locally that aren't emulators? Like
So
what is
so
taxing this?
so that's the thing. I haven't gotten to the level where I'm taxing the system to that level. I
Oh,
will
nice.
say I was hoping that Undead Horde would play it higher than 60 frames, but 60
Hmm.
is where it's locked. I can't get
It caps
higher
it.
than
Yeah.
60. Yeah, it caps at 60. The what's it called? So I did obviously install Vampire Survivors. I installed TMNT. I was basically trying to
Hmm.
get things on it as fast as possible because I was trying to, like, it was a weird thing. My
Yeah,
flight
you're
was
gonna
at
be
8:30.
traveling, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
like throwing it. But Undead Horde I had in there. TMNT I didn't download it because I didn't have Netflix set up before. So as I was downloading stuff on Netflix, I jumped into the game, downloaded the game straight from the Play Store. Then I had TMNT installed on it, and of course Undead Horde was easy it's and Vampire Survivors was it's also a free game now that you can download. Undead Horde
Hmm.
does get the fans kick up. There is
Okay.
a legit cooling system into this that reminds me a lot of the Steam Deck. This is where this has a lot of I feel like has a lot of inspirations of what the Steam Deck has. This has actual built-in fans, so you can kind of see it on the
Hmm.
back here. These are the grills on the
Yeah.
side. There's three here and three on the side. So intake and outtake, and they do kick up. So you feel like the
Hmm.
system is already working at it, but even at 60 frames per second with Undead Horde, because Undead Horde can actually tax the system if you're, especially when you
Oh
start
yeah.
building up and you're
I
pushing
mean, even
more.
on an 8 Gen 2, if you kick up all of the graphic settings to their highest,
And that's usually how I do
uh,
it. I go in there
yeah,
and I'm like, give me everything.
just give me
Exactly.
all of it.
Yeah, yeah,
But the OnePlus would drop. I mean, it was dropping to like mid 40s
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
after a couple minutes of gameplay. So I feel like I understand some of the because like we had Farhan in here and he was like, well, I don't see where this is special. You could just get a controller for your
So
phone,
yeah,
and that is a perfectly reasonable reaction in my opinion. I
absolutely.
am the mobile guy. I do as much as I possibly can from phones. I have a
And
game,
and
sir.
and,
I've got
and
my Steel
Razer
series.
themselves sell the Kishi version 2
Yes,
for people to
they
do
started
said thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no.
this
Uh,
part of this
things have to be explained. Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. This is the same company that's selling this is also selling controllers so you could do that with your phones. They want you to be
So
mobile and
I would
play.
just like to posit this
Yeah.
as a potential
Hmm.
that let's say someone had, I don't know, like
Red
a
Magic.
2-year-old mid-ranger phone,
A
and they
2-year-old
wanted to
mid
play
ranger.
games. They
Okay.
wanted to play games mobily,
Okay.
and they were interested in something like this Razer.
Hmm.
One solution would be buy an older new phone
Yeah. No, no,
and
absolutely.
get a controller, or you could just stick with the phone that you currently have if that's still working for you as a communications device,
Hmm.
and then go to a secondary, a game console of some kind, like this Razer Edge or a Steam Deck
Hmm.
or even a Nintendo Switch. I think is a reasonable solution to this. I feel like there's a good argument to be made for one device that has accessories, or for multiple devices that then specialize. And I think you end up kind of coming to around the same price point.
Yeah.
You know, when a Razer Edge starts at around $400 for the Wi-Fi only model, and a Steam Deck starts at around 450, and a Nintendo is the Nintendo Switch Lite is 300. Is that
No, two was it 249 for the
is it
199 for
250?
the
Is it
light. It's 250 for the standard,
okay?
199 for the light.
So
And
you've got
then
options.
the OLED I think was the higher
Yeah.
price.
The
OLED was
OLED
the
is closer in price to like where a Steam Deck
yeah, absolutely.
starts
And
out.
and I think that justified it. They went from an IPS to an actual OLED. Like, I mean, and the display is bigger too. It's actually slightly bigger than the standard Switch.
Hmm.
Um, for me,
Switch
so
Lite is 200. Thank you, Darren.
okay. So before the Steam Deck, I would have totally been like, this makes perfect sense. But I also kind of have to preface it the fact that the Steam Deck is also a very unique experience. It's actually mobile PC gaming on a portable solution, where what we're getting here is essentially, you're right, it's an Android implementation. We are getting Android on a tablet with a custom controller, and it's a customized experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I like the fact that I can play games on my phone, and I like the fact that if I want to be able to do things like that, I can jump into it and get out of it, and I can put the controller on and do a whole bunch. And I think for
Yeah.
those solutions, that makes perfect sense. To get something that has everything set up for you the way you want it, with the launcher, the games, the services, you have also the ability of adding emulation, all of that, and not have it bog your main phone down. This is where it kind of gets a little bit, for me, the segregation of content. I like my phone and I love using my phone all the time. And I realize a lot of our phones are flagships. They can play, like the Pixel 7 Pro, the 11, and we'll talk a little bit about gaming on that side. These are great gaming devices. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case that you were saying about a person that has like a 2-year-old phone that's a mid-ranger, like somebody's maybe a 7 series or a 6 series processor, it will hold its own around the 7 series or so, but around the 6 series, I think you're going to start seeing some of that stress being put on it.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the high refresh rate. That's the other thing that I love about this one. It's 144 frames per second refresh rate, kind of like the Red Magic. So yeah, should you buy a Red Magic? Obviously, there's always going to be a case of, what should you get to get the solution done? This is a pre-packaged. This is an easy solution for somebody looking to get a portable gaming a gaming system that has 5G. And I think that's what's going to be the appeal of it. And that's where people are going to buy it. For people that don't know about it, more than likely, our fans, obviously, or everybody in the chat, more than likely, they can jerry-rig something together and get something very close. But I don't think that's who it's targeted towards. I think it's targeted towards Verizon customers, targeted towards holiday and people that just want to be able to buy something and say, look, this is a portable gaming. You can keep this as a gaming solution. And then one thing I did try just to see kind of like if I was able to get it, this doesn't work outside of the system. This is actually pretty much like even the Kishi app. If you download the Kishi app and you connect it to a OnePlus 11, it does not recognize it as a controller. You can control the, what's it called? The mouse cursor on the screen, but the Kishi control app doesn't recognize it. So you wouldn't be able to get the custom, key mapping and stuff like that.
That is actually a little obnoxious.
I don't know if it's a compatibility thing. It may be because I don't know if you've ever had that with pre-release devices. They typically don't get love from everything. So I got to test it out.
But I just mean, like, if that bears out as like the retail unit isn't supporting other Android devices, or there's like a proprietary cable connection, and you're like, okay, I know that what you're trying to say is you needed this so that you could charge the Razer Edge and have your audio output and all that stuff. Great. But it's kind of silly to have a USB port on a device and then make that a proprietary connection.
I have to test a little bit more, but it was more because the device that I had with me and that I was playing games on it was the OnePlus 11. So I downloaded Kishi and I was like, okay, this should be pretty simple. But this also could be because this is a special edition of the Kishi controller for the Razer Edge.
No, it is because it's a special edition of the Kishi controller. I'm just saying you could make a special edition of the Kishi that functions with the Razer Edge. And if you're supporting a standard like USB-C, you should be able to should work with other USB-C devices. That to me is what's kind of frustrating, is why are we using a standardized connector with a proprietary interface? If it turns out that the retail unit that's gone live really doesn't support all that. But of all the gripes that I think we could throw out there, I feel like that one is annoying but not a deal breaker.
And the reason why I was saying it is because there could also be maybe a different app that I just didn't have access to. This is part of the testing part. What works, what doesn't work, what it does great.
So Ron Guido is asking, how's the battery life?
So battery life on 5G unfortunately is not as good as I wanted it to be. 5G is super demanding on this.
I feel like that's not a surprise.
Yeah, well, it's
something 888 tier powerful with a 5G radio, primarily being used for graphics intense processing. I would not imagine that would be a really super long lived
No.
gaming
So
experience.
whenever I was on 5G, battery life wasn't as good, but when I was on Wi-Fi, it was actually pretty good. So when I was on the
Nice.
plane, and obviously I wasn't playing streaming content and stuff like that, it did actually really good on the plane, and I enjoyed it quite a bit on the way back. Like the majority of my flight, I couldn't find the plug for the for the ear for the headset on the display, and it kept telling me that it was Bluetooth supported, and it's not. And I was like, I just gave up on it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna listen to content on here, and it was literally about 5 hours of just enjoyment, and the battery lasted pretty
Nice.
good. So that for me, I like that. And the display gets pretty bright. Performance is really good. It's very smooth. And what I love about it is that if you close an app, it doesn't kill it. It actually
Oh,
holds
good.
apps in memory where the
Because that was
Logitech
definitely
was.
an issue with the Logitech. Yeah.
Oh my god, that drove me crazy. Like I could not jump from if I was watching Netflix and I just wanted to go check on something, I come
No.
back. Nope, you have to close each one every time you leave.
Yeah.
Here, true multitasking. And then I did a speed test, of course, just to see how fast the sucker can go. And I was like crazy, man. I'm like almost. One of my tests was 2 gigabits down, and then I got 2.6 gigabits down, and then I think I could have done it one more time, maybe hit all the way up to 3. I mean, it's crazy fast. Like the connection
Hmm.
that is in there, but it sucks up the power. That's all I
Yeah.
say. So if you're going to be running it, I think I probably would say is definitely use the charging port.
Well, and also kind of nice that too. Again, we're talking about something with active cooling, so
Hmm.
I feel like there's a
And
better
it never
argument to
gets.
be
Uh,
made.
yeah, I was going to say
Oh, go
just
ahead.
the cooling does such a good job that it never gets hot to the touch. It gets warm, but you hear the fans and it's actually
Yeah,
cooling it, so it never gets to what we used to have with the 888. That
for
the
sure.
concerns that we had before, they don't show up in there.
Well, so what I was going to say is that also goes hand in hand with the charging mode that I really appreciate on Red Magic,
Yes,
because
and Sam's and
fast
Sony, sorry.
charging will warm up your phone. No, 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 no. The fan mode. Fast
Oh,
charging will
sorry.
warm up your phone a little bit. But for me, I feel like it's better to fast charge than to wireless charge, where the charging takes longer and it heats up your battery too. So if
Yeah.
my battery's going to be warmed up, I want it to be for a shorter period of time as possible. And
Hmm.
I feel like on a super fast charging phone, I think it's a bad idea to be gaming on that phone when you're
While you're
hitting
doing super,
120-watt charging. You want to
no,
put the phone down for 10 minutes
yeah,
and
yeah,
just let the phone kind of top off, let it kind of come back to room temperature. But
yep.
on the Red Magic, you can set the high performance, the high output fan mode to kick on whenever
Hmm.
you charge it. So it
Oh yeah.
helps take some of the burden and it helps kind of get some of the heat out of the device. I would have fewer concerns about an even better vented mini tablet,
Hmm.
active cooling on a mini tablet, that if you wanted to use it and it was plugged in, that you would be able to kind of game like that
And
without
and
it
and
cooking the internals.
and because the controller is done the right way, because you're holding it on the sides, I feel like it does a decent job that the air goes up and down and it never actually gets to your fingers.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
really
that's huge.
the design is definitely done
It's
very
like
well.
Razer has been making gaming products for a while and they took some of those things into consideration. It's kind of
Razer,
strange if you think
wait, hold
about
on,
it.
hold on. Razer makes gaming products?
Yeah.
I thought they only made
Yeah,
mice and
I'm as shocked
RGB
as
lights.
anyone.
I thought
That's
it was
right.
just RGB heaven, man. I heard about their mouse and then their PC. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what? That explains what
It
all of
explains
those
a lot.
laptops at their store.
That's
That would
right.
make perfect sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah, yeah.
that those are their laptops.
I thought it was just monitors, man.
Yeah. No, 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 no.
They just wanted to show the
They made
videos.
those as gaming, as high
Gaming
performance gaming solution. Yeah.
Project Linda to the next level. But yeah, so long story short, I'm finished. I am trying to get my thoughts on the Razor's experience overall. It's been positive. I'll say this. My only thing I will say is I was excited when I saw this in its alpha stage in 2021. I was super excited when I saw it in its final form in 2022, and I'm really
Feels like
really
it got a
happy to.
lot better.
Oh my! Not only a lot better, a lot smaller, more portable. I can use it as a tablet and as a gaming thing. The
Yeah.
first gen that we saw, actually, the first gen looked a lot more like a Steam Deck
Yeah.
than it looked like
All
this.
fused together for sure.
It was fused, big case, massive, and the cooling was a lot better. And it actually had an HDMI out port. So
Yeah.
there were some things they decided to change on it. I appreciate the smaller form factor, easier to carry, and also like when you're
But
taking it on the
also
plane.
I like that conversation where instead of just trying to copy the success
Yeah.
of the Steam Deck,
Hmm.
we're blurring some of those Steam Deck versus Nintendo Switch ideas.
Yeah.
When you want to just pull up a multimedia tablet, you've got a dedicated device that takes up way less space.
Yeah.
And then when you want to clamp that controller on there, you've got something that's a little more Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch. And I think there's something interesting in there where the price is higher than you think it should be for an Android-based portable gaming system,
Hmm.
but it is delivering some of those Android niceties that aren't on a Nintendo or a Steam Deck. I mean, as soon as you say
Yeah.
this is 144 hertz refresh OLED, that is a tangible perk in the games
Hmm.
that support it above what I can do on my Steam Deck.
Well, and
It's one of the things I love about my Red Magic is being
yeah.
able to hit 100 frames per second in Dead Cells. And you're like, you know what? In a precision platformer like Dead Cells, 100 FPS is really nice.
Oh, dude, and we were doing
Oh,
120
it's
on
really
Dead Horde
nice.
on the Red Magic. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's when a company decides to just let the system like, hey, man, you want to burn this into the ground, have at it. But we'll give you some cooling to keep you chill a little bit. But you know what I mean? Like, I understand Red Magic's approach. I remember testing the Red Magic 7, not the 7 Pro last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, 140 on a phone holding in my hand, and I'm playing the
It's
game up, and
toasty.
then but it wasn't slowing down, it wasn't
Yeah.
throttling. It was just like, go have at it. We will stop when the chip falls
It's
off.
pretty great.
Uh, no, I appreciate it. But for me, I think what maybe the last thing I'll probably say before we can transition over, I want to talk a little bit also about the Poco. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so when we say that, can we take an older mid-ranger device and try to get this experience? I think you'll get close enough to what the Razer Edge can do, because keep in mind that a mid-range processing device is probably not running a high refresh rate. It's probably running maybe 90 frames at the most. You're also not getting the faster storage, the RAM capacity, and also the larger size display. So if we compare this to what would have been something close to it, like a Red Magic or even an older ROG or something like that, the price is already validated with what it offers. At the Wi-Fi model only, you're getting it at what, 299 or no, not was it 299? No, 399. I
It
think it
was
was 400.
$399.
Yeah,
$400.
$400 for the Wi-Fi model, and you're getting the gaming performance of a Red Magic from 2 years ago, which is still very baller because that's what my son uses on a daily basis. So you have to kind of
Yeah.
also, this is why I was kind of saying, like, it's hard to kind of leverage. Can you get close to the experience? Absolutely. Can you get the same experience? That's where you need to make a decision. What is worth it for you when it comes to gaming? Do you want that dedicated experience and keep your phone, just an easy experience and not bog it down
Because
with games on?
I'll be the guy. I'll
Yeah,
say I am usually the guy who is trying to show everybody how they can replace all of their other gear with their phone. So
yeah.
I feel
No,
like
and
there's
and
a
for
great solution to say, hey, I want to go out and I really want to leave the house and not carry a laptop and a nice mirrorless
absolutely.
camera, and I still want to get all this work done. There
Hmm.
is a very good reason to spend $1,000 on a phone.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have a harder time turning to gaming and
Hmm.
saying the same thing. If the primary entertainment activity is gaming, I don't feel as confident making that as bluntly direct because I've had such good experiences with the Steam Deck. I've
Hmm.
enjoyed cradles and things that you can pop your phone into. But I think if someone is like, hey, I need to have a phone to communicate with people and I like to play games when I'm out and about.
Yeah.
And I feel like to me, it's a more even split
Hmm.
of the people who should buy a more expensive, more powerful phone and get controllers for it,
And
and
then,
the
yeah.
people who would do better with a cheap communicator phone and then buying a portable gaming console to really focus on their gaming. I
Yeah.
don't feel like, to me, I can happily recommend to people how they can leave their laptop at home and still get a ton of creative work done. I have a harder time saying it's as lopsided with gaming, because with gaming we've got real competition
Hmm.
with content creation and productivity and business and document solutions. Your other option is a laptop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want to leave your laptop at home, I feel like you can do that on a phone and your phone is stinking powerful. If you want to play games on the go, well, you could pick up a Nintendo Switch Lite. It's $200.
Oh no, absolutely. There are many solutions into the way things are. So, and like I said, so stay tuned. There'll be more conversation as to like what makes a
Oh, there
good
better
case
be
for the
TK.
Razer. Yeah, I know
You got
exactly.
to catch up on Vampire Survivors, man. I'm talking about stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds cool,
Well,
and you're
so
like,
I
you could
made
just
most of my progress on the
just
Steam
maybe,
Deck, and I installed it
yeah,
again on this one. So it doesn't. It's not like I could just easily
yeah, it doesn't
like
transfer.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like
fine.
library. That was the only downer about it. But I
But I'm just
think
saying,
yeah,
I'm closing in on like 170 hours of playing this game.
and
You've
you're
got a ways to go,
redoing
man.
it,
You got to
and
catch up.
yeah, but you're also redoing it too. You're making it really hard for me, man. It's very
But they
intimidating to
keep
be a
coming out
to
with
get.
new stuff. They've got a
I
new
know.
update. They've got a new update where one of the abilities you can get is like swarming more enemies. So it's like I need to make the game 3 times harder than it currently is. That's
Oh
the
my
tier that
god.
I'm at.
That
Literally no character that you can play can
uh-huh.
I not make it to end game on
With
any map.
e-
I can make it to
okay.
end game on any
Well, because
character on
you
any
unlocked
map
everybody. You even unlocked the guy that kills you at the end of the 30 minutes. That's like
because it's awesome.
it
But
is.
now
It
I'm
is.
actually like masochistically going, well, but what if it were 3 times harder? Would I be able to make it through every character on
What if it's
every
three times so
map?
hard?
I
Oh
gotta
my god.
know. There's an
Um,
answer to that question, and I need to explore. I just want to do a quick shout out here. We've got El Jefe Reviews is
yes.
popping into the chat. We've got Tech
Tech
Loving
level.
Mama giving us
Yeah,
a wave,
exactly.
telling everyone, saying hey to everyone.
How you
And
doing?
we will be talking a little OnePlus. And before we get there, I've got to direct everybody to Jeff's
One
OnePlus
plus
Buds
Buds
Pro
Pro
2.
video. The
His
title
review
is yeah.
is the comprehensive review on the OnePlus Buds 2. I'm gonna have an article out tomorrow just talking about some of my experiences. I feel my experiences were confirmed by what Jeff was talking about in his video. So before you
Absolutely.
read my shorter form, look at the Buds Pro. If you just caught Jeff's video, you get the whole scoop, the full scoop on literally everything going on with
What?
that.
Yeah.
Just another quick shout out. Tech for Your Needs is popping in saying hello. We got Holla at Your Boy. I didn't know if I missed LaShawn. If I did, I apologize. But he's hanging out in the chat too. We got a real good crew here. Yeah. More to
Let's
say
talk
on
Poco.
the Razer, but
Yes.
I
So
was
the Razer, hopefully within a
clumsily
week or
trying
so.
to get to this bad boy.
Oh yeah, right there. Okay.
Focus. Come on,
Nvidia.
Panasonic.
I think it's an. Is it
No,
Panasonic or Nvidia?
no, it's Panasonic. Focus is always the camera. The Nvidia software doesn't do
No,
anything
I
for
thought
the
Nvidia just does the
focus.
face tracking. That's why. So just keep it next to your face. Just oh,
Wait,
here it is.
wait,
Here it
wait,
is.
wait, 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 wait. There we go. It's a pretty
There.
phone. I really like this new vibe
I
for
like
the
the
Poco.
color.
This is the X5
Mm-hmm.
Pro
Pro.
5G. So
Okay.
this is replacing the X4, which last year I walked into a little bit of Poco controversy.
Okay. I didn't realize about. Okay.
So flagship killer fans are some of the most aggressive commenters on the YouTubes. And last year, so the end of 2021 through
Mm-hmm.
2022 was really kind of a busy year for me with Poco. I had played with a few Pocos before, but man, like really went through almost their entire lineup over a little bit more than a year. The M
Yeah.
series, the X series, the F series, like
F series
it
is
was a
great. Yep.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a lot of phones. So I had not played with the X3. The X3 is a flagship killer favorite because the X3 is using the Snapdragon 860,
Mm-hmm.
which is frustrating that it's called an 860 because it's basically a plus version of the Snapdragon 855.
Five. Yep.
It's not a lower power version of the
860.
865.
Exactly.
So, the X3 is this like diehard. If
Mm-hmm.
Poco fans know X3, they know F3. These are like the crown jewel phones.
Absolutely.
And
The
I
F
get
series.
the X4, and the X4 is their first foray into 5G.
Mm-hmm.
They don't put in an 800 series SoC. They
Okay.
don't put in a 700 series SoC, they put in a Snapdragon
6 years, right?
695.
Yeah. They had
So
a few.
you dropped from a Snapdragon 855 plus plus to a 695 in one generation. Now, I had not used the X3, so I thought the X4 was a really reasonable way to have a great lifestyle phone with a good camera and 5G at a reasonable price. I was very much disavowed of that notion by Poco fans online telling me how wrong I was for saying that this was an acceptable experience. Like, it didn't matter that they went from an LCD to a really nice OLED. It doesn't matter that the camera improved. It doesn't matter that the speakers were better. None of that mattered. You went from an 860 to a 695. This phone is garbage.
Oh my God.
Garbage, yeah. TK. So, that's the preamble. Now we get to the Poco X5, and I get a little anxious because I see it's a Snapdragon 700 series. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to have a whole bunch of cranky X3 fans telling me that there's nothing worth it for this phone. But thankfully, it's a 778G.
It's actually pretty good. Yeah.
I could break down all of the individual ARM components and core configurations, but basically, the 778 in the Poco X5. Man, so many letters and numbers, and I apologize. This is alphabet soup that's going to come flying at you.
You are doing amazingly great, man. Keep at it.
So
and throw in a few Sony names in there, then we know you're doing it.
How do you even say Suspiria XII?
Yeah.
So the 778G in the Poco X5 uses newer cores, CPU cores, and a better GPU. Okay. Well, I guess I shouldn't say a better GPU, but a more powerful GPU. But it uses newer cores than what were in the 855, and they're on a die shrink, but it's at a lower clock speed. So an 865 runs at a higher clock speed. That's why it's a more powerful SoC. But if you compare the 778 to the Snapdragon 860, the 778 actually wins quite a few fights, depending on what kind of workload you're giving it. So this entire song and dance, we're basically back to where we were on the X3, even though this is still technically a mid-ranger SoC. It's using better hardware, but at a lower clock speed. So that's also pretty killer for battery life against a Snapdragon 855, because it's an underclocked 855.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's all the gobbledygook, blah, 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 blah. This phone is flippin' rad. So early bird pricing for the 256 gig model of this gorgeous phone, €300. So
about $300.
I mean, just a little bit more, again, if you were doing the conversions. 120 hertz OLED, really pretty OLED, not the brightest, but decently readable outdoors. The 108 megapixel camera, because all those megapixels are critically important. Absolutely. Completely flat sides, edges, all kind of rounded off in that sort of new current Xiaomi style that I think we've seen in some of the Chinese released Xiaomi 13s. IR blaster, headphone jack, 67 watt charging, and now an SoC that brings us up to what I still consider to be silly overkill for most daily driver needs.
I can imagine.
Even though it's several years old now, a Snapdragon 855 is ludicrous. If you're like, I like to take some text messages and some phone calls. It's like, you've got a supercomputer in your pocket and you're using like one of the low power efficiency cores at best. The only downside is, unfortunately, it does seem like Poco's kind of playing the where can we encourage an upsell? Because there's a 128 gig version and there's a 256. There is no SD card. So they lose the SD card from the Poco X4. And so if you want more storage, you do have to go up, but you're going up to €300. The base model starts you at 250.
No, I think it the
stings,
price, but it's for $50 more. You doubled your storage.
Yeah,
it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, this is one of those.
So
load up your library.
I'm a little frustrated by that, but it's hard to be like, oh, this phone is a deal breaker garbage. You should just buy something else, because like where else are you gonna go? Like the Samsung A series is losing SD card support. It still
Absolutely.
has a pretty good headphone jack. I mean, like it has features, and it has features that I think really contribute. We lost our. I mentioned this on the Monday Morning Podcast. We lost our Chromecast remote,
Okay.
and it was cheaper to it was faster. It was the same price and faster to just go to Target and buy a whole new HD
Hmm.
Chromecast, not the 4K Chromecast, but the HD Chromecast,
Hmm.
just to get the remote. So we went and did that, and then literally an hour after I had set up the new remote to replace the one that we had lost, we found the old remote. But for the last week, for the week before that we'd done that, we were using the Poco X5
As an Android
as
with the
our
remote.
universal remote because it has an
Yep.
IR blaster, and then we could also link it up with Google Home. So at $250, you've got a ridiculously powerful,
Hmm.
full-fledged pocket computer smartphone
Yeah,
with
yeah.
an IR blaster and a headphone jack, and it's in the same ballpark as like a premium universal remote. Like if you remember like how ridiculous the pricing was on Logitech
I,
Harmonies,
my God,
you could just have a whole computer phone.
sitting in, yeah, and have it play your favorite music and play your favorite show and still run the remote.
Right?
No, 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 absolutely. I think that's one of the very undervalued features that we don't really see anymore. The IR blaster, for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, with the exception of Xiaomi
Oh,
and,
internationally, they haven't gotten rid of them. I still have it on the X90 Pro.
wait, we have an I serious?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me. I don't know where my
Oh, there it
X90
is.
Pro went.
It's right
Yeah.
here.
Boom. IR blaster.
Okay, it tells you what I've been focusing on this phone for then, because that's not what I use it for.
Smart remote. Right there. Fire it up.
I
I mean, we would have used the Vivo, but the Poco was like, you know what? We could like just pass this
Oh
around.
yeah, that
I'm
is
gonna
true.
cringe and freak out if Lex is swinging around an X90 Pro to try and control the volume in our TV.
And
But you
it's
know
like,
what? On a Poco, I'm not as bothered. I'm
no,
just not
no, no, no.
as.
Okay, no, but in
I'm a little less concerned.
in all fairness, I mean, obviously, yeah, no, I think that as a feature, I think you're right. Internationally, it's been something that we get to enjoy because we get to play with international devices. Like I was talking to my
Mm-hmm.
friend, and I was showing her the Find N2, and I said this is an Oppo, and she's like, this is a what? An
Yeah,
Oppo. Opal? No, no, not the stone. Oppo, OPPO. It's kind of like level, but it's OPPO. It kind of goes backwards the same way. So,
yeah.
yeah, no,
It's a
obviously,
palindrome.
yeah, it's a palindrome. So essentially, the the uh, the U.S. market is just not aware of it. Obviously, Samsung's primarily is going to be Samsung, Motorola, Pixel, and OnePlus. And we're going to talk about how OnePlus's approach to the 11 is going to be is kind of a little bit different this year
Mm-hmm.
as well. But I'm excited that you got a chance to play with it. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get my hands on with it. I did reach out to the folks over. They did actually send a very nice little thank
Oh
you
yeah, we
package
got
for
like a
2022. Yeah,
yeah.
did you get
Had
yours?
like a
Or
shirt and a bag in it.
yeah, yeah,
It
like
just
it's
showed
pretty
up.
good.
I haven't fully opened it because they have that like crinkle paper packing, and if I open it here in the office
It'll be
with my
over.
terrible shag carpet, I'm never
Yeah,
gonna get rid of it. So I've got to take it
uh,
back downstairs and just get
absolutely. No, no.
everything out.
So there was a nice little gift thing in there as well. That was actually kind of like a nice little touch from them. I feel like the Poco team was definitely very supportive, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
like I was along with you there on 2022 was like the year of all the Pocos, and
I mean,
the
we covered like
F4 for me.
four different versions of the M series phone.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was a
And but
lot.
the F series for me is what kind of basically, like the
Yeah.
F series was seriously legit gaming with the triggers and everything. So all of the bells and whistles. So, but what I will probably say is we'll have to see. I am going to try my best to see them at MWC. I'm hopefully, well, not hopefully, I'll be going to MWC later this month, and I definitely want to stop by and see what they're doing. Last year, they had the M4. I think the M4
Hmm.
series was also they would launch it right around this time, and they had a whole display of it. So I may get a little bit of quick
Yeah.
hands-on video while I'm in MWC, and then
And
check out what other cool stuff
I'll
they
be
have.
very surprised if they don't have two new flavors of M5 out over the next fiscal quarter.
Probably. Yeah. No, no,
Because like that was the one that always kind of surprised me. Is we went to M4, then I was M4 5G, and then there was an M4 Pro, and I
Pro.
think then there was an M4 Pro
Pro
5G,
5G.
and then
Yeah.
we got an M5, and you're like, well, we need like 5 different versions of that phone this year. Like, that's got to happen.
We'll have to see.
So
I think to a certain point, most companies, we may see a slight different approach to how many devices they release in 2023.
I hope
Because
so.
we saw the numbers that came out at that, smartphone sales are starting to see some impact with the end of the pandemic, people going back to work and not people
Oh
not
yeah, the
needing as
last
many.
quarter was disastrous for
Yeah.
most
So,
companies.
and I
Yeah.
feel that that's going to do a little bit of a course correction for this year. But I still think that there's still some innovation going around in certain technologies. Like you said, for 300 euros or roughly 300 bucks, it's hard
Well,
to
this is
knock
this
a
is what's
device.
killing me because like I'm looking at the United States. I'm still very selfish
Yeah.
in how I would like to be able to talk about these products and services.
Hmm.
I love being able to show them off, and I feel like we're in a good group right here where we are entertained by the tech and we like to do things with our tech. But when I talk to my family and friends, like I've brought up this story before, my uncle, Galaxy
Yeah.
S9, his Galaxy S9 started to die. He really couldn't get it repaired. What did he replace his dying Galaxy S9 with? Another Galaxy
That's the
S9,
S9. Yeah.
right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So his upgrade path is stunted because he doesn't want a $900 or $1,000 S23 Plus that does less of what he really uses his phone for than his current phone. And you're like, internationally, I would be able to point you to a $400 phone that would still outperform your Galaxy S9,
Hmm.
would quadruple the amount of built-in storage that you have on that. So I feel like the pressure of maybe losing an SD card would be sort of minimized. Improve the camera, still have a headphone jack, would bring in this feature where you could use it as a universal remote, which for a guy my uncle's age, that's a fun perk. He's got
Yeah.
remotes on his coffee table. He still has AV equipment. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
all of those pieces would line up, and he would like the experience better than the more expensive phone. Saving money would just be the icing on that cake.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's what's killing me is like, I think he would like a Pixel, but it doesn't do the things that he wants his phone to do. But I could move him to a Xiaomi and like, yeah, you want to plug in your headphones. It's right there.
It
You
does
just
that,
do
yeah.
it. And I don't have an option like that works as well.
It's a tougher. So I'll say that I'm with you. I converted my mom from an S9 Plus to to a OnePlus 8. And initially everything was with the exception of the SD card, which I don't think she used as much, but it was more so she was used to just Samsung UI and Samsung interface. It took her a little bit to adjust, but once she got used to the OnePlus interface with Oxygen OS, it became something she was comfortable with. But it's hard to change somebody that finds something really good. You know what I mean? Like you find something, you're
Right.
comfortable, it's good, it works.
Well,
You know how it's going to do everything, and then
I
suddenly
just
you're
look
like,
at the
yeah.
main problem that I think a lot of techies face is like
Mhm.
we stay current on some of these trends. I am not worried about moving my uncle to a different skin.
Mhm.
He's on a Galaxy S9. If he stays with Samsung, he's still in for a significant relearning curve based on the changes that we've seen with
Oh, that's
Samsung's
right.
UI and skins in One UI.
I don't even think
So
he has one UI,
we have
right? He's
so
probably still
many
running
consumers
TouchWiz.
out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have so many consumers out there that are on older devices. This notion of brand loyalty doesn't work. You know, like I say, being perfectly fair, imagine I'm looking at my mom. She's still on a OnePlus 6T. She loves that phone. It is still like she, as a computer programmer, she acknowledges this phone is a ridiculous overkill for what I use my phone for daily. I have
Yeah.
no need to move up the food chain. But there's no brand loyalty there because if she goes from her OnePlus 6T to a OnePlus 11, she's going to have to relearn everything about that interface. That is a significant change.
Exactly.
So at this point, we're talking like maybe she should go. This would be the time to maybe switch her over to a Pixel or to a Moto or to
Hmm.
any other device, or maybe even like, hey, you know what, just for a year, rock a TCL and see if you like a cheap phone.
Yeah.
Because you don't do a whole lot on your phone. Maybe it's time to just step down from the more expensive tier to like something more mid-rangery,
Yeah.
or like a Pixel 6a. Again, kind of in that same boat. So I know what's new and fresh and hip and current and how all these little changes add up, but like, you know, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at people that are like, oh, but it's going to be so confusing. Or I hate how Oxygen does this, or One UI used to do that. And you're like, it doesn't matter. We've got consumers that are legitimately holding onto their phones for like 4 and 5 years. When it's time to upgrade, everythings going to be new. There
Everything.
isn't going to
Everything.
be one
They
thing
they
that
they wait and they think it's just a slight update from what they have, and in reality, it's
it's
leapfrogs, and
totally
it's like learning another
different.
system, and
Yeah.
it almost puts you in a position where you're actually pretty much open to any kind of UI change because anything you do is going to be different. So
Yeah.
you may have, I mean, seriously, which makes sense. An X5 Pro may be something that your uncle could jump into and find some familiar, I would say,
Hmm.
familiar tones in there, like the headphone jack, the experience with the graphics. I mean, overall, like it's a decent phone, but it took me, I'll say that it took me a while to get my mom to change. And once she switched over, she was very happy. Literally, my mom, my brother, and his wife are all on OnePlus devices. My in-laws are all
Hmm.
on Pixel devices, Pixel 3a and Pixel 3a XL. My mother and father-in-law both love that phone. And then to the comment I think we saw earlier before, it's like, why would Google remove the headphone jack? I mean, we to a certain point, it's a tough thing, as we see now. Even mid-rangers and budget devices are losing those
Losing it.
features. That, yeah, I mean,
You
the A
got to
series
squeeze
from
blood from
Samsung.
that stone, TK. You got to like, how
They're not
dare
paying.
you
Yes,
enjoy having your inexpensive
no,
earbuds? We
the A
need more
series, the
profits.
the
And
A53 lost the headphone jack, lost the charger in the box, and lost power for processing power.
yeah,
There was a lot of
TK, I
adjustments
just don't
done there.
understand why you hate enriching shareholder value as much as you do.
I think it
It's
just
like you're
depends.
constantly, going after these companies for squeezing profits out of their customers, and you're like, I really feel like, I mean, just saying, you're starting to sound like a socialist. Is
I
what I'm saying.
I
So
will have to readjust. I
that's
apologize.
that's bad. Our
Uh,
Congress just put together a pledge to say no to the evils of socialism. So that's our
no,
politics in action right there.
I hear you. No, and
How dare you,
I will
TK?
have to work on my attitude towards
I I, I,
the
I
chart
think I think you
the
you
charging
better
brick.
had. What? Because whatever is good for multi-billion-dollar or trillion-dollar international conglomerate corporations is better for everybody. Not
Well,
not the consumer experience. That's not what we're
absolutely.
concerned about. I need to make sure that shareholder value line goes up
Yeah,
all the time. Line can never go down, TK.
I will always make sure that the stay along the line. That
And
maybe
on
that's the
that
best way
note,
to
the
say it.
Poco was great.
Yeah, and I'm glad you got the right color. In the past, I think we've always
Oh,
used to get
this yellow
the,
and black
the
Super
yellow,
B.
like, yeah.
Oh, it's such a, like an old school kind of like hot rod.
Oh, to me,
My
yeah.
lighting in here isn't really doing it justice because it's a matte finish with just like a little bit of a shimmer to it.
Hmm.
But it's got such a great texture. It's super super practical. I kept a case on it just because again Lex was using it as a universal remote. But it's like this and like the Vivos are phones where like I could kind of go back to not always having
You
to
That's
stress a
one thing
case
I
on
really
all
appreciate
these.
about Chinese phones is that you still get cases in there. You get the charger in
Oh
the box,
yeah.
you get a case in there. You like getting the experience out of the box. You're already there, and if you want to get a custom case, you can get it later. But yeah, no, like
But
exactly,
it's ready to go out of the box.
and that and that
Love it.
and they
Love
have
it.
the yellow on the fingerprint sensor right there as well. They have the coloring on
The
the
little
button on the
color
side.
accent. Again, something that used to be so nice, like on the Pixel 4.
Hmm. Yeah,
Just
remember when they did
that
that case?
little
Yeah.
pop of color. And you're like, those little touches, I hate that because I'm usually now I'm your phone has to have a case before I leave the house with it. But
Yeah.
in terms of design, those little accents did help a device stand out against competition. So I
Oh,
don't know, but if you're in a market where you can shop one of these and you're looking at like, well, I want something that can kind of play some games, but it doesn't need to be top spec, and I want a decent point and shoot camera but you're not living out of the telephoto or the ultra wide, because boy howdy, the companion sensors on this, the 2 megapixel macro is utterly useless. It is one of the worst additions to a phone that is I've ever seen on a phone. And I'm not saying, because I love to take flower macros. That is like my zen hobby. I will roll around in the dirt waiting for the perfect ray of sunshine.
I have seen your Instagram. I know what you mean.
To get that snail shell lit exactly the way that I want it. I am digging my phone into the dirt to get the right angle at the right lighting. I'm there. Macro, yes, I'm a fan. You can get closer at a higher quality just by zooming in on the main camera sensor than what this dinky, miserable 2 megapixel sensor. There is no point in having it on the... We could save the 10 cents per unit if it were just omitted completely, or if we could roll that cost into maybe having a slightly nicer ultra-wide camera. We would have a good competitor to like an iPhone 14 at like a third the price.
I think that would, and I think I always voice that whenever I have the opportunity. It's stick to, if you're gonna go with one camera and everybody's gonna live in that one camera, then stick to that. You don't try to put extra. I like to call them just numbers. Essentially it's all they're doing.
It's a spec sheet.
Well, but it's also so that they're trying to make it so that if you do buy the phone, people looking at your phone will see that you have multiple lenses, which seems to be a trend with most devices now. You remember back in the day when everybody was running one lens, like with the iPhone 7 and the 6 and the 8, and everybody's like, you don't need more than one lens. We can do everything with software. And then Huawei comes up with the multi-camera circle camera configuration, and everybody started. But anyway, I digress on that part. I do want to touch base real quick on the case conversation that you were talking about.
Sure.
Because I finally got a case for the OnePlus 11.
Oh, hey. Oh, that looks nice. I like that a lot. Which one is that?
The Sandstone. The Sandstone Black.
The OnePlus Sandstone?
Yeah. So not the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber I felt like was a little bit thinner. This one, legit. Like actually bumper case covers the phone all the way. Of course, I'm like doing it on the wrong side. And this is where it doesn't focus because this is, there you go. So you get, it covers it, and let's go back, and there.
Yeah, I like that.
And it goes all the way, and it makes the back, the bump on the back actually not as pronounced. It becomes a little bit flat. So it becomes nice and flat in the back. It just, if you want to cover it, it looks nice. And I wish it was a little bit more see-through just to be able to enjoy the color. So I posted the pictures of that, and Simon says, Hypno's like, you have to put a case on it. You got to keep the case to protect it. And I'm glad. I forgot Adam Tech Odyssey had picked up the case that you reviewed, that you showed up in your video on that one. And so, he had it protected with that. And then I was literally the only one walking around. People kept asking me when I was in New York for the launch event, like, why'd you bring the 10T for the 11 launch? And I was like, no, it's the 10T case on the 11 because I didn't have a case. But yeah. So I think it would be a good segue for us to start talking about, the
we should probably cover some OnePlus 11.
I think so.
Real quick though, Darren did ask, how's MIUI for the Poco? I like MIUI. I feel it is a great example of sort of a bouncy and animated skin. I don't dig super deep into what those differences are between like Poco and Xiaomi. To me, it's kind of like I can sit there and scalpel analyze the little minute differences between an iQOO and a Vivo, because it's fun touch, but it's a little bit different. And you're like, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
But I feel like the direction that a lot of those skins are going is still sort of iPhone adjacent with the core Android navigation intact. And it's things like, man, I really hate how out of the box it's got that split notification shade, stuff like that. Just
it used to be a feature in the past that you used to actually have to turn it on. Now it's on by default.
Now it's it used to be opt-in, now it's opt-out.
Now it's opt-out. Yeah.
So things like that I think are still kind of irksome, but I do have to credit, this is a 300 euro device. It is surprisingly powerful for a 300 euro device, and MIUI has aged very gracefully into MIUI 14, that it's not having any kind of tangible effect on performance. You know, like I think we still have this idea, some of us still have this idea of like a heavy skin on an Android phone is going to kind of impact performance. And that's been informed by the old days of like TouchWiz,
I think TouchWiz
HTC
is what
Sense and stuff like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But now, like, man, we're doing well enough on processing power that we can waste a bit of that processing power just to make the animations really pretty and fluid as we're just swiping around.
It's
on
also
the screen,
configuration of the processors. I mean, we have octa-core. We also have low power, low efficiency cores, low power, and we also have performance cores. So you're able to schedule the performance in there. And but I also feel like ever since 11, like Android 11, something in Android allowed them to run more optimally.
Oh no, there were definitely improvements too there. But what I mean is immediately coming off of the Poco X4.
Yeah. Okay.
The Poco X4 is one of those phones that, you know, if a YouTuber were to complain about a Pixel 6a not having 120 hertz, I would maybe point out that the animations on a Poco X4 aren't as consistently smooth. Mm-hmm. So maybe you don't want 120 hertz on a 600 or 400 series SoC if it really hasn't been optimized to kind of fulfill like every frame of that animation at 120 hertz. With the 778G, and I'm sure Nothing Phone fans would probably vibe with this.
Oh, that's right. That's what
too.
They're running the same.
I don't feel we're hurting. I feel I can waste a few CPU and GPU clock cycles to keep that animation looking really pretty. Yeah. So that whole experience I think has been fine. I think in the grand scheme of things, we just saw another article come out about how Chinese phones are spying on you. And the headline was sort of knee-jerk reacted to, but the body of the article is pointing out, or I should say the study that the article is trying to summarize. Mm-hmm. The main issues that we keep running into are when you're setting your phone up and agreeing to every single, like, you know, experience program or fan club or log in with your this account or that account, and then you're using all of the built-in system apps. Like, it still bothers me when I fire up a Xiaomi and I go to open the Xiaomi calculator, and the calculator says, oh yeah, to improve your experience, we've got to send information to another server. And like, no, you don't. It's a calculator.
It is, yeah.
There's nothing you can glean from my addition and subtraction on a calculator that's going to improve my experience. So then I stop using it, and often, if I can, I'll try and like disable it in my apps, and then go and download another calculator, like the Google calculator.
Like a legit. Yeah, you know, I'm with you.
That's the last part of it. Is I feel like a part of the conversation, and I feel internationally, that is a much more visible part of the conversation. Like the people who have to import Xiaomi and BBK brands for their regions are a bit savvier still at, well, maybe I debloat this, or maybe I disable that, or maybe I install this as another solution or an option. And I think we've kind of gotten off that in a lot of Western tech conversations. Yeah. So we get a headline where it's like, oh, the Chinese phones are spying on you. And you're like, yeah, some of their apps are definitely problematic. And I've been pointing to this for a while, and all you need to do is not use the built-in calendar. Go get Google Calendar, and then you're in the same boat as any other Google-powered device.
No, I absolutely, and I think that's the biggest. As long as you don't interface with it, you can ignore certain things and don't turn on some of those custom options. Even when you're setting it up, it'll help a lot, and it'll minimize a lot of those notifications, constant options, and then don't run the optimizing app. Don't do all of that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, what I would probably say is if you've used another Xiaomi before or a Poco, it should not be hard for you to figure out how to do it. If you're new to the device, just be careful and read what you're selecting.
There's definitely a consumer education.
Yeah,
issue,
exactly.
For sure.
And you should be aware and limit. And it's not easy, but it's not that complicated to mitigate. I think that's probably what I would say.
That was a really rambling answer to your question, Darren, but thank you for asking it. OnePlus. So, TK, how has OnePlus betrayed you? because it's not good enough and it's different, and
So
it's not like the OnePlus One and Oxygen OS, and
I
it's
actually think
the
they're going
cameras are
back.
garbage.
No. Okay.
And
Well,
I had to
700
summarize sort of what I expected.
So 799 for a hot garbage
Well,
thing. Yeah,
and
no.
you're gonna show me like the OnePlus 11 versus like a $1,200 phone, so that the $1,200 phone can win,
Yeah, I don't
right?
understand why
Is
anybody
that
would
what
be
your
comparing the
video
one
is
place.
gonna?
No, I honestly. So I'll say this. I think this year, as hard as it is to believe, I feel like this is one of the years where OnePlus is finally trying to go back to their roots. They're
A little
they're
bit.
doing something here. This is where I think a lot of people, because we always want bigger, better, faster, all of that good stuff. Great, and every time we do that, we seem to be okay paying more and more and more. Like $1,000 for a phone is is just a norm now. You think that's what a flagship should be.
Hmm.
That may not be true. Last year, the OnePlus 10 Pro came out with an interesting approach,
Was it
right?
899?
It was 899, but it was also the 128 model. It wasn't the
Yeah.
256. So OnePlus tried to do the whole gaming of the naming essentially is it was 899 for the 128. It was 999. Obviously, they were still hitting that close to 1,000, but the phone was always on sale. Like you could almost every single time you went to look for it, it was never on a full retail
Yeah.
MSRP. So what
It's
happened
still on
last
sale.
no, and it's still on sale today. They didn't
Right.
actually discontinue it. So when I started looking at the OnePlus 11 originally, like when we first found out about it, obviously when we first got I want to say first and foremost, I appreciate OnePlus allowing us to have time with the phone. This is not
Yeah.
you got the phone a week later, you need to do a video or something on it. This is literally legit. And if you watch my video, you could see I was doing speed tests on the 13th of January. That's how long
Yeah.
I was playing with the phone. I really feel like this is still OnePlus's flagship for 2023. It doesn't need to have the Pro
Well,
moniker on
I
it.
need to immediately step on this.
Go ahead.
I
Let's
am
try.
so tired of the word flagship. The word flagship is only useful in
Yeah.
talking about the best product of a company, and
That's
then
what I
people
that
will go and turn that into, well, I need to compare flagship phones against other flagship phones. And that's where you
by
get someone out there saying, this is the OnePlus 11 versus the Galaxy S23 Ultra, the Note 23.
yeah.
And you're like, they're both flagships, bro. And you're like,
So
yeah, except one
yeah.
is twice as expensive as the other. So if we're going to play that game, the word
The name
flagship ceases to have any relation
yeah.
if you're looking at different brands. The OnePlus
That's true.
11 is the flagship phone of OnePlus's year in 2023.
And
That
that's how
has
it
no relation
yeah.
to what the flagship phone of Apple is going to be in 2023 or the
Absolutely.
flagship phone of Google. You're talking about
But
different products at different price tiers with different solutions for different
those are
consumers.
no, absolutely. And then that's exactly how
It's like saying
I put it
what we
there.
need to do is
Mhm.
compare the flagship of the United States Navy against the flagship of Myanmar's Navy. Burma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
know.
they
I
have
know,
a
no, I know.
flagship ship, I'm sure.
I
And so that's the fair comparison, bro. It's the same.
so
They're both flagships. They're
I
flagships, bro. That's how flagships work, TK. Bro.
so there's an aspect of this conversation that always gets kind of muddied in those comparisons because
Flagship.
I can't continue.
Flagship. It means nothing, but I can make it a video title.
It is that I think that's primarily so. I think there's a certain thing. There's a certain I would say there's a certain algorithmic process, SEO type of an approach where having the flagship of a popular company compared to other devices on the market, and in some areas you're not comparing apples to apples. I don't think that the OnePlus 11 is a competitor to the S23 Ultra. I think it's a competitor to the S23 Plus. That's
Yeah.
really where I feel like this needs to kind of hit the mark on what is this comparing with. The S23 Ultra is a Note. It's and it also has a whole bunch of other things that we don't usually have
Sure.
on the OnePlus. So for me, my main thing with the phone at the time is this is a year where OnePlus is, like I said, I still really believe that. I think this is OnePlus going back to their roots. This is them giving you the better bang for the buck, the better, faster processor, the Oxygen OS optimized experience, good cameras on the back, good cameras on the front. Hasselblad they
Right.
brought back a whole bunch of things.
I did that as kind of like a silly lead in.
Yeah.
The OnePlus 11 is a premium device. A
Absolutely.
Galaxy S23 Plus is a premium device, even though it's not the bestest slate
Sam.
phone that Samsung is going to make. And when you pick up the OnePlus 11, my fear was that it was going to be closer to the model number and farther away from the Pro. So, like, if you
Yeah.
go back, like, a OnePlus 9 was a nice phone, but it was kind of compromised price-wise, right?
Yeah.
There were a lot of these little
A
omissions, the plastic
lot of
frame,
yeah.
it was not built as
What
nice
it used
as the OnePlus 9
was
Pro. And the OnePlus 11
the 9 was the
feels
one that came back
closer.
with the flat, right? The 8 was the curved edges on the OnePlus.
8T and OnePlus 9 had flat screens, but the OnePlus 9 lacked OIS on the main camera sensor and had a plastic frame with a glass back.
Okay. Yeah. And
So again, it was a good phone. I still like the OnePlus 9 for what it was,
mhm.
but it was definitely a lower tier of device than the OnePlus 9 Pro. The OnePlus 9 Pro was built to a much higher premium tier. The OnePlus 11 feels like it's manufactured to be closer to those pro level devices. My fear was going to be that we were going to get a $700 starting phone more like the OnePlus 9, and it's not that.
Yeah.
It is
No.
built nicer, fine, nicer materials, better components, all of the bells and whistles that we would expect. And we're just kind of taking a few small compromises on some of the exotic stuff, the
Yeah.
stuff that isn't really sort of being adopted by more mainstream audiences.
And I think that that's the biggest thing. I mean, they did do, like you said, there was some tailoring to bring down the price, but I think that's the biggest thing about it is the fact they are coming out of the gate with some amazing deals on pre-orders, and also the fact that it's a crazy fast phone. I mean, it still lives up to the OnePlus hype of basically being a fast,
Hmm.
smooth running device. Color OS Oxygen OS based on Color OS is crazy fast.
I wish they just call it Color OS. At this point,
I
I'm
think
just
at
like,
some
rip off
point,
the Band-Aid. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
tired of OnePlus,
just call it the
like,
Color OS for
nerds
OnePlus.
crying about it.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Color
no, no.
OS
It's for
for
OnePlus.
OnePlus.
For
Exactly.
OnePlus. That's what
Just do
Oxygen.
it, because
Yeah, yeah.
it's not Oxygen. It's not. And
We
I'm
left.
good with that.
We left a variant of that, but I will say this is the weird kind of thing is, Nord devices still run more of an older generation of Oxygen
Yeah.
OS than what we see with some of the higher end. So I think
Yes.
Color OS is still limited to higher end devices that can handle
Hmm.
the UI
That new
elements.
animation engine,
Yeah,
because again, it runs really well on the OnePlus 10 Pro.
yeah.
It runs well on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Doesn't run as well on the OnePlus 8 Pro. I'm
It
not liking that experience. And I think I still haven't. I know I mentioned this before. I think I might need to just completely nuke
mhm.
my OnePlus 8 Pro and set it up completely from scratch, because that update has tanked the sort of fluidity of the daily driver
No,
experience.
yeah, and you have to,
So,
you have to.
but I
I
think
think
you're right. I think there are parts of Oxygen OS based on Color OS with this new animation engine that are sort of depending on newer processing capabilities than some of these older or less powerful phones
And I think
can really
till they get to
deliver.
the point where they can get Color OS or Oxygen OS to run smoothly in its new form on
It's just going to
everything.
take SoC updates. At this point,
Oh
it's
no,
like,
I
well, we
know.
just
Yeah,
need
yeah.
more powerful hardware
The
and
fact
lower
that
tier
Xiaomi is
devices.
able to put a 120 frames per second refresh rate in a $300 phone, you can already see a lot of
Hmm.
those premium things trickling down. But
For sure.
the 11 for me, I think, just to kind of summarize my approach to this is it's a pleasant experience overall from using this device, from booting it up to charging it to using it. 80-watt charging is actually still ridiculously fast by comparison to some of the standards we have.
Hmm.
The display is beautiful. Again, there are some tailored things that were not that are not in here that we had in the 10 Pro, but I'm not gonna lie, and I'll be very honest. I prefer a faster wired charging over wireless. I love the convenience of wireless, but I've never used wireless to fully charge my device in a pinch. It's the wired connection that I wake up in the morning because I don't charge at
It's
night.
every now and then I'll be in a situation where it was nice that I had it, or
Yeah.
especially it was nice that I had reverse wireless charging too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
I got to comment
but
on
I,
that one.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, when you can plug in your phone for like 5 minutes and basically get a day of runtime out of that, the idea of let me put my phone down and let it run warmer for a significantly longer period of time to charge not nearly as quickly
Yeah,
is way less attractive.
and I think
And
that
it really stokes that liberal guilt where if we're constantly pushing consumers more and more and more into wireless, that means they have to buy more expensive accessories and charging pads. That means
and,
that eventually we're going to be generating more e-waste.
mhm,
And it's not a big deal to your electricity bill to switch from a cable charger to a wireless charger,
mhm.
but it is less efficient. So then multiply that by millions and millions of users putting additional strain on electrical grids to waste power. Because that's why you've got this heat exchange over a longer period of time, is because it's less efficient
Mhm.
lining up those charging coils than just plugging in the cable. So I get it. I totally understand because I do have the VOOC wireless charger.
Yeah, yeah, the one
I
that
pulled
keeps
this out of a drawer just so I could show it on video. The OnePlus 11 does not support this. And
Yep.
if you had a OnePlus 9 or a OnePlus 10 Pro and you invested in OnePlus chargers, I totally appreciate where you would be a little frustrated that the newest OnePlus is not going to support. This was an expensive accessory.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is an
No, no.
expensive charging
But
pad. This is a
I,
50-watt wireless charger. That is not cheap.
it's also
But
proprietary. That was the other thing that I was trying to lead to. It's that, yeah,
is a bummer, but that's how you get to 50-watt wireless charging. It's not just stock standard
yeah,
Qi
because
charging cranked up to 50 watts.
we've had Honor's 50-watt charging. We've had actually no, I take that back. Honor's 100-watt charging because I think they got 100-watt on the wireless.
Yeah.
But then you had Huawei 50-watt. You have Oppo's 80
But
watts,
I
and
need people to know you got 50-watt charging on this when it was connected to a 65-watt charger.
charger
That is
connected.
the
Yeah,
energy inefficiency that happened on the Honor one with 100-watt.
it
Don't
was
you have to have like a 120-watt charger to get
it was a
100
separate, yeah,
watts to the
120-watt
phone?
charging brick to get it. It so I guess what I was trying to get to is when I first found out that it didn't have wireless charging. I'll honestly, the only time that I ever really truly use wireless charging for my devices as on a daily basis is when I have I have the phone in the car because my cradle in my
Oh,
Tesla is a wireless charger, right?
yeah,
So
that's true.
that's the only time I would I don't and it's not like because I don't want to or I need to. It's because that's the cradle in the model that I
Hmm.
have. It's not an option because in the older models you had to upgrade to get that. For me, if I just put the phone there, there's a wireless coil and it's automatically
Sure.
going to try to charge my phone.
The
And
last
if
time I used wireless charging and like I was like glad that I had it was before the pandemic. My
oh wow,
phone
okay,
was running low
uh-huh,
and I got a coffee at a Starbucks and it was one
oh
of the
that's it.
Starbucks that had the pads in the table and I
They
just left
still
my phone on
for
the
a few minutes.
table
Yeah, yeah, no,
for a couple minutes.
I
So
don't I don't that,
that was
yeah.
3 years ago. It was the last time I earnestly used
I gotta take you.
wireless
I
charging.
gotta take you to Starbucks more often. But yeah, no,
We do.
I'm with
No,
you.
no, no. Hey. To be fair, you and I are definitely overdue a coffee date,
That
but
is true. Yeah, we haven't.
but
We've met up
I
multiple times, but
feel
just don't. Yeah,
like we don't need to go just to use wireless chargers.
I get it.
We can just enjoy.
We can enjoy the
Like
coffee.
I've been dying for someone to make me a really good chai tea latte, and you know that's all we need. We can just hang out, and that's fine.
Yeah, I
But
think we'll do. We'll do.
yeah, but getting back.
Yeah.
The OnePlus
Awkward,
11
awkwardly walking
has
backwards.
really been speaking to me
Yeah.
as the better managed set of compromises for a
Hmm.
much lower price.
Yeah.
That is not the same conversation as a phone that has legitimately more bells and whistles
Hmm.
attached to it. You know, like there's a reason why you might want to step up to $1,000 Vivo these
Oh,
days,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
or one of these newer Xiaomi's or something like that. But when I put the OnePlus 11 up against an iPhone 14 Plus, we're talking a $200 difference on those base models, and the the iPhone isn't winning very many battles. It's got millimeter wave 5G,
yeah. Hmm.
and it has the wireless charging that I just spent all this time making fun of, and that's about it.
And I will.
Everything else is going to be a better experience on the OnePlus
It's a lot. It truly is. It's I don't. It's hard to explain. I mean, from a user from a fan of what OnePlus has been standing for since the beginning, and to see where they were and where they reached and what they're trying to do. I love the fact that this model also, we get the dual SIM cards in here as opposed to the single SIM for the U.S. market that we used to get.
Yeah.
We have a screen protector that's pre-applied. We have
Oh,
the
and that
charger
was
that's
an
in the
interesting
box.
thing too. I don't know
Yeah,
what your feelings are on this. Like, I don't want to just glaze over that because the OnePlus 10 Pro does not have dual SIM and it does not have eSIM.
yeah,
And I think that is the penalty that OnePlus had to pay for
to get
working
it.
as closely with carriers.
And
And the OnePlus 11 is not going to get as much attention for people on the ground
yeah,
because it's just going to be online only.
so that's
But
the change that they've added. Yeah,
because they're not doing the T-Mobile version, we're
we don't get
getting a
the IP
phone that now
rating, which I
has
think
dual SIM and
typically.
eSIM.
Exactly. And we're finally back to more of what we originally loved about OnePlus for the longest time. And I don't know, obviously, we're not speculating, we're not saying anything specifically in as far as plans
No,
between
no, no,
T-Mobile and
no. I
OnePlus.
mean, with my
We're only
insider
talking.
information for
Yeah, yeah, no, no.
T-Mobile's entire corporate business strategy.
We're speaking specifically to why the 11 is. I guess those are some of the positives that people may glaze over and not realize, like, you just didn't have that before. We were just comfortable getting single SIM devices, even for the unlocked models in the U.S.
Yeah.
market because of some of the set conversations. And then, so the gist of, at least for me, from what I get here, is that it's a fun device. Gaming on this has improved, and we have the SoC improvement with the HN 2.
Hmm.
The charging speed is really still pretty good. We have a dual color options on the 256 models, and we
Sure.
got the 256 at launch. This is no longer where you start with the 128, you stay there. So 799 and 699 and 799 respectively for both. And some of the deals that they had may even get you that higher end storage for the lower price based on some gift cards.
Yeah.
I think Amazon or Best Buy. But the approach of what they did here is that they just kept it simple. It's online, it's on their stores at Best Buy and Amazon, and you also
You
get the
definitely
experience.
see where they're reining in costs too, because
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
having to manufacture two different phones with different variations for different regions,
it's
they're
exactly
just focusing on one core line. And that's a
exactly.
bummer for people who wanted faster readout camera sensors for 4K at
So
120 frames per
the 4K
second. That's
120 is a
me.
big, yeah.
That's a bummer for folks who wanted something like wireless charging built in. I totally get it. But in streamlining all of this, they are drastically cutting their manufacturing costs. And I think as a powerful pocket computer communicator,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm now calling sort of a starter premium,
Mm-hmm.
this is a premium phone, but it's not as expensive as an iPhone 14.
Mm-hmm.
As a starter premium device, I feel they've made appropriate compromises with a significantly lower price tag.
Yes,
And that's fair. If you
yeah.
need those other bells and whistles, there are devices that will give them to you. But even against an S23 Plus, this is a monster competitor.
Yeah.
There is no objective way to say, well, the S23 Plus is the better phone. Because you've got to play those games of, well, if I trade in and I can cut this price and then I can compare these features but not these other features or this or that. There's no winner for Samsung in that conversation.
It's a
You can say
tougher.
I like it better, but it's not, you can't sit there and say, well, it's objectively the better phone because it's also $200 more
It's
expensive.
$200 more. There are certain things that still feel like Samsung still holds, which I feel like I really wish OnePlus and Oppo, for that matter, will start developing some type of a desktop experience. Because, I mean, for me right now, Dex is
I
I
want
feel
it,
like it's a
but it's not
very.
selling phones. It
It
didn't
isn't
sell
sound like a.
Motorolas.
No, because they don't cover it.
Dex is
Nobody
not moving
covers
galaxies.
the biggest thing that always gets me with all of these launches, and every time we see a device, is they never talk about that experience. It's built
No.
in, it's evolved.
Yeah,
Ready for is also evolved, and it's also very
it's great.
powerful. But they don't want to, like, for some reason, it just doesn't. It never makes it through the PR stack or the presentation or
Well, no,
whatever.
because manufacturers who make all these different parts and pieces and computers and Chromebooks and all this other stuff don't want you using your phone to replace another
Absolutely,
tablet or another
especially.
laptop. all the way down to even like a Pixel, which lacks video output and doesn't have a desktop mode, isn't going to give you that experience because Google would prefer you also buy one of their partners' Chromebooks. It's the business of it.
It is.
If someone out there would help promote and move this, like I'm going person by person to show them like, hey, your phone could have done this. You didn't need to buy a new laptop or a new desktop. Your phone could have fulfilled that need for you. But I'm one dude who's literally talking to handfuls of people at a time. I don't have $1 billion marketing budget to show off how your phone can displace laptop sales and you'll make these companies less money. Let me spend $1 billion so that this corporation can make less money is never something you're going to see in a boardroom.
And I think that, but those are the things that I always like, kind of like when people start kind of like nitpicking. But to a certain point, I think you're right. The comparison between the Plus and the 11 are very. It's a hard sell to say what makes the S23 Plus a better buy, other than maybe familiarity, DeX, and so obviously
DeX and wireless
charging, and I think that's about the video output
because
on top of the DeX experience.
Well, I'm lumping those together because that is fair, and even if we didn't have a desktop mode, even just basic video out would be handy. But even the camera conversation gets complicated because people are going to point to one side and say, oh, but the Galaxy telephoto has more zoom. And that's true. Yeah. But the OnePlus has a better sensor. So if you're in dimmer or in indoor darker conditions, that new RGBW sensor that they're using actually does a pretty good job of brightening the scene in a way that dinky, tiny quarter-inch sensor on the S23 Plus is never going to hang. And so you find you can't just go, oh, well, there's a fight on paper. It has 10 times zoom. Yeah, but if I want a better quality image, the OnePlus is going to take a better quality image. It's even an interesting fight against the OnePlus 10 Pro. The OnePlus 10 Pro, they spent more money on that really great main camera sensor so you could do 4K 120. The ultra wide and the telephoto sensors on the OnePlus 11 are higher quality sensors than the companion sensors on the OnePlus 10 Pro. So you really have to start digging into all the little nooks and crannies to get a fair assessment. If you just do it's got this Geekbench score and the N22, you completely miss like, oh, you know what? Like that actually would be an upgrade from what I'm using now. Yeah. That charging speed, that screen, the LTPO3 screen, that telephoto sensor, because maybe I'm really focusing more on taking photos of people. Yeah. Well, a 50 millimeter equivalent lens is really nice for that, especially head and shoulder portraits. It looks really good when you use that equivalent focal length. So again, I'm very impressed with where OnePlus has landed. I was confident that I was going to dig this phone after I started playing with the iQOO 11. Because I figured the OnePlus 11 was going to be a cousin to the iQOO.
Very, very close cousin. It's slightly...
There's a lot.
I was hoping... I'll be honest. I was hoping this would have been the year where we crossed the 120 mark on OnePlus devices. We've been on the OnePlus 120 frames per second since the OnePlus 7 series. The 7 Pro started us off on it. And don't get me wrong. I love the fact that it's good, but once I saw iQOO going to 144 with QHD, I was like, I hope OnePlus comes out with it, because to me, I'm looking at this also as a little bit of a teaser for what the Oppo Find X6 Pro is going to come out with a little bit later on. So I don't know if they're going to stick to it, but typically the display and
the rumors on the Find X6 have been pretty exciting too.
Yeah,
so.
I'm like seriously, I don't, like I said, I appreciate the collaboration and all the different experiences that we get there, and I always love to see the things, like how things are coming, because these are like little, like reading the tea leaves kind of thing a little bit, just seeing how things are going to be. We'll find out obviously more. Hopefully we'll find more about the Find X series at MWC. Hopefully we'll see how that comes up. The other thing that I also want to say is, and just for everybody that's considering it, if you're a Pixel fan and you just downloaded or updated your Pixel to the latest February update, we finally have spatial audio that works on the OnePlus Buds. So the spatial audio, there's this kind of like a weird feeling, like, okay, so OnePlus has been basically playing this game of, I feel like they're trying to one up Google at certain specific features, namely spatial audio and tablets, because they also talked about the tablet with the update. Just for reference, so if you updated that February update on your Pixel 7 Pro and you have the OnePlus Buds 2, you get those, you're going to be able to enjoy spatial audio on those buds as well as the Buds Pro from Google. So spatial audio is not it's not a restrictive. It's as long as the earbuds are using the Google standard for spatial audio, then it's going to automatically recognize it. So I saw that. I went back into the settings for because I've been using the buds literally since I've had them. I love these buds. And I'm like, yes, spatial audio came up. Yeah. So here, so Juan and I will do the Wonder Twins image. Let's see. Can we get that? There you go. So yeah, that's a little bit of a tip there. If you have, and if you'd like to, let's say, pick these guys up as opposed to having, let's say, buds, or if you want to have the other ones, it'll work either way.
For sure. So I think we can cap the phone discussion saying, if you're looking at an iPhone 14 or you're looking at a Galaxy S23, if you're not seriously shopping a OnePlus 11, you're probably going to spend more for sort of a similar or in some ways worse experience than what you can get on a OnePlus 11. Do we want to do the S23 Plus breakdown? We could try and do the back and forth, because you've got the lower resolution screen, the dramatically slower charging.
45 watts. Yep. About half.
And you don't get the 45 watt charger with the phone. So you have to add the cost of the 45 watt charger to the comparison. Because we're keeping things fair, right?
Yeah.
We would never just say this phone costs this much and this phone costs this much when one phone has an 80 watt charger in the box.
It was so
that would be 80 journalistically speaking. That would be unfair. That would be almost a lie of omission to not include the additional $30 or $40 price. Whereas like $20 or $30.
It's like 30 bucks. I think it was like $45.
I think it's 30. We'll say it's 30.
We'll say it's 30.
It's probably
split the difference.
That's fine.
No. So there's a lot.
Similar main camera sensors. Better telephoto. Similar ultra wides. I think the ultra wide performance is maybe leaning Samsung's direction just a little bit. Samsung has the better selfie camera, I would say.
I want to say they're both pretty decent in good lighting and good.
They're pretty decent, but I would give Samsung the win for especially for shooting video.
Oh, absolutely.
The S23 video.
4K 60 on the front camera.
So we'll give Samsung the win there. Samsung has DeX and wireless charging. You don't have any accessories to use this. You'd have to buy those accessories, but they have it. I'm trying to what else am I missing? So far, OnePlus has won everything but DeX and wireless charging and selfie camera.
I think it's a tougher game. Yeah, it's hard to kind of.
They're both showing up with UFS 4 and LPDDR5 5X RAM.
5X. Yeah, they're both using the latest and greatest.
There's the rocker switch. That's kind of nice.
Oh, that's
hardware
that
the Galaxy doesn't have.
Yeah. I'm glad that they kept that.
So you have your
of all the
switch.
Things they compromised on, that was the one. Do not.
Take that out. Millimeter wave, and the S23 does have millimeter wave, where the 11 does not.
I haven't tested it because I don't have a variety. So the thing. Okay, so here's the thing. When I was in New York, I really wanted to test it out, and I didn't know at the time because I didn't take it out then before I put my SD card in here. This actually is an eSIM configuration for Verizon on my side. I'm not using a physical SIM, so there's only a tray for your SIM for your SD card, not the SIM card. So I couldn't test it out because I was getting some really good speeds. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it supports Verizon's 5G, but it just does not support Verizon's millimeter. I could be wrong. And even there, we're talking about 500 to 600 megabits down. We're not talking slow speeds. So I think the OnePlus is a champ all around. I mean, I've been using it on T-Mobile, and hold on, let me see.
No. I'm coming up definitively at $699 versus an S23 Plus at $999.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me
So
that the S23
808 down,
is
151 up,
objectively
and this is not
a
even millimeter.
$300 better phone. That it's so much better
Mhm.
than a OnePlus 11 that it is worth a $300 premium over the OnePlus
So
11.
okay,
I think it's totally fair if one person individually says, DeX to me is a vital enough feature that I will buy the Galaxy so I can keep using DeX. But that is different than saying in a marketplace where
oh,
Android typically sells under $400 for the vast majority of consumers,
mhm.
that what we would recommend all people do is spend $300 more to get the comparably spec'd Galaxy over a OnePlus 11.
So this is where I feel like the conversation gets a little bit harder because the consumer that's making that decision wouldn't be in the
Sure.
same location to make that decision. And what I mean
Yeah.
is, this is where having this device online means it has to be a little bit more of a forthcoming and more smarter consumer, similar to some of our, the gentlemen and everybody hanging out with us tonight. And if you're
Hmm.
listening on the audio podcast later on, I think the biggest thing that we need to keep in mind is it is going to require that little bit of a techie, a little
You're
bit
being
more.
very diplomatic. You
Yeah,
have $1,000 to spend.
yeah. No,
Do you, TK Bay, where do
I
you
would go
point
for.
people to? A
I would
OnePlus
point to
11
the.
with
Yeah, yeah.
$300 worth of accessories, or a
I don't
Galaxy,
even think it has
just
that
the
many.
phone and no charger?
I honestly would recommend going with the 11. I think the 11 is a much more I think what happened is with the OnePlus 11, it's like I said, it's from a recommendation, it's easy to make on our side as because
Yeah.
this is what we live in, what we do. It requires somebody that's looking to spend that $1,000 going into a store to think that they need to go online to do so. And this is where I
Yeah.
feel like our messages may not be reaching the right audience. I'm not saying it's not reaching the correct audience. It's just the audience that we would love to change
For
is
sure.
it's going to take some time. Like I said, I when I converted my mom
Because
over to it,
because
she
that
didn't
that
even
I
know
think is
OnePlus
also
was.
it's a fair conversation to say we have not spent $5 billion
In
marketing the
advertising,
OnePlus
exact.
label like
Yeah.
Samsung has spent over the last year
I've
advertising
actually,
their
I almost want to say
products.
I've never
So
seen a commercial for OnePlus in the US.
the
I
the
don't,
only
I
times
don't
it
recall.
sneaks in, it snuck in on carrier advertisements through T-Mobile,
Absolutely.
but that
So
doesn't
T-Mobile
help
was
because it's a
doing.
T-Mobile. Yeah,
Oh, no, 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 don't get me wrong. Again, it's more about the location. So the decision to go where we with the approach of the OnePlus 11, I think it's still too early to call how the numbers are going to be. I think OnePlus is going to have
hmm
a better experience with the 11 launching this year than we had last year. Last year there was
for
that
sure.
whole Oppo's first coming in, and then they had that
hmm
split launch, and then they were going to show content to people
It
early in the
got
year, and then
it
COVID
got
kind
real
of hit, and
muddled
yeah, yeah, it
for
was a
sure.
very
As
it's a
Barry
weird
would
year.
say, it was a complicated timeline.
It was a very complicated timeline in the in the conversation that I think it would be is it's a great phone. It's going to surprise you in many ways. The cameras, although
Yeah,
different because we are comparing them to last year, are still very good cameras and they stand pretty good on their
for
own.
sure.
The processing, the nighttime photography, the overall benefit of the
5
HM2 is
years of
here.
security patches.
Absolutely, and then four software updates, not including Android 13 that it came out with. So think of that as
Hmm
as their dedication of, and it's bi-monthly updates. Just for, I don't know why I always make sure to say that, because if you ever pick up a OnePlus, you're like, it doesn't get the update every month. Like, it's bi-monthly. OnePlus does not do one
Yeah.
monthly, it's every other. um and you're going to be surprised. I think it's a device, it's definitely worth the try, and I hope that you get a chance to check it out, and if not,
In the
find
grand
a
scheme
friend
of
that did.
things, where I've really enjoyed OnePlus devices, and last year I was last year I really felt the OnePlus 9 Pro was overall a better buy than the
Mhm.
OnePlus 10 Pro. I liked
Yeah,
the OnePlus 10 Pro, but
yeah, yeah,
being the camera snob that I am, I leaned OnePlus 9 Pro.
yeah.
I kind of feel the OnePlus 11 in the current market, where it's got to go up against a Pixel 7, which is a monster buy at
Yeah.
its net, because it's currently on like another reduced sale price right now. They cut
I was
50
about to say,
bucks
yeah, almost
off
all
all
the
their
time. Yeah,
phones.
you'll never find them for
Again,
20. Yeah,
and something tells me we'll see a few, probably not as aggressive on the OnePlus 11, because it's already coming in pretty low margin low profit margin for OnePlus already. But I bet you at some point we'll still probably see like a $25 off or $50 off at some point over the life of the OnePlus 11.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling a lot better about OnePlus's strategy, streamlining and focusing. I feel Samsung really needs to streamline and focus. I feel Apple is even getting a little spread out with how they're putting different pieces and different parts in different phones.
Yeah.
This is actually a strategy that I hope more people will pay attention to, just because it makes the conversation a little easier, and the compromises asked are not extraordinary compromises to hit $699 as the base model price. Yeah. $300 less than the base model MSRP of an S23 Plus. An iPhone 14 Plus is going to be $200 more expensive than this. And I think the OnePlus 11 is not just a comparable phone, but it's a better phone in a number of ways that the consumer will directly relate to, like refresh rate and charging speeds. Stuff like that makes the phone feel nicer. So that, again, summing it all up, because I really want to switch over to the earbuds now, because we've both been having great experiences with these earbuds. When we're looking at markets, it's different than an individual saying, my personal preference is this. I think you have a very difficult conversation if you're Samsung. Phone to phone, if it were just the merit of the phone and not $5 billion worth of yearly advertising, the merit of each phone, it's very difficult to tell me I need to spend $300 more than the OnePlus 11 to get the better experience, because I don't think it's there. The Note, totally different. Completely separate category.
Yeah, exactly. And
great phone, going to be one of the best phones of the year. The S23 Plus is in dangerous territory, because that's where every other manufacturer is looking to undercut Samsung.
Yeah, and it is in the series. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we've hammered that one, I think, pretty good. But speaking of buds, and I want to say kudos,
because you're my bud.
You're my bae. I'm TK and you're no, actually no, that's the other way. Doesn't it go the other way, guys? It's usually
it's fine. TK my bae.
Yeah, I know.
No, not our bae. I'm on the podcast with you right now.
So I was gonna say, no, I know.
These other people are just hanging out with us.
I want to say I feel so bad for not being able to jump on your stream on Monday, or actually almost anybody's stream for the last few weeks, because I can't access Twitch at work. My work specifically blocks Twitch on all of their networks. And so Wi-Fi or non-Wi-Fi, but long story. Anyway, going back to the buds, I started with them and actually, I'll take that back, because you pitched it over to me on the 11. Let's do that one from that side. You're the audio expert in our in our dais over here. I would have to confer with you. What are your thoughts? What are obviously how?
Man, these are such easy earbuds to recommend to people who don't like deep insert IEMs. Okay. So let's really talk about Juan's biology. I love earbuds that tickle my brain. But if you remember recently, I'm on bone conduction right now, because I've been going on off and on ear infections over the last year, and I had to have an otolaryngologist actually, like, almost surgically remove buildup that had calcified because of all of the ear infections that I've had. So maybe don't do as I do all the time, but there are definite inspirations from AirPods Pro. And I feel AirPods Pro kind of popularized this very shallow insertion. They do go into the ear canal, but the ear tip is, for me, it's almost like it's just resting up against my ear canal. It's not really going into my ear canal.
It doesn't have that snug.
So I can't get that like perfectly earplugged
absolutely
feeling.
The Pixel Buds Pro have that. Other ones have, and it is, I think it's intentional, as you said, it's intentionally designed this way, the way it sits in your ears. It still does a decent job with active noise cancellation, and it's comfortable. I feel like it doesn't feel too, but it's a personal taste. You're right. It's more if you like it or if you prefer something.
I wanted to start with that to highlight True Wireless are now offering a bit more variety than just these are some earbuds and they use Bluetooth and there's no cable.
Yeah.
This is the maturity of true wireless. This is a product category is starting to plateau. I think we've sold about as many Bluetooth earbuds as we will sell. And
Yeah, I
now
think
it's just going to be keeping up with the demand
world
of people
has
who
multiple
are replacing.
pairs. I'll say that. Each
But
user
now we're just
has
keeping up
reached
with the
that.
demand of people who are replacing sets that burn out.
Yeah,
We're not
or
going to find a dramatic new market to surge true wireless earbud sales. But the good thing about that is the product category should now be maturing and diversifying.
yeah,
And OnePlus is doing something that acoustically I don't think I've heard on any other Bluetooth earbuds. So I'm a big fan of dual driver,
yeah.
but that's
That was a nice.
almost always a hybrid driver solution where you get one big dynamic driver and then one balanced armature.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time I've heard an earbud, a Bluetooth earbud, and I think Jeff might already have like bounced out or gone to bed or something. I don't know if Jeff is watching our stream. There is a big dynamic driver, and then there's a little dynamic driver.
Yeah, it's a dual dynamic, I think. Yeah.
I've not heard that in a true wireless earbud before. It's almost always been balanced arm for a little bit more articulation in highs, and then dynamic driver for more lows. This is a really bouncy, juicy earbud. Acoustically, we play with mids and lows in a way that I really haven't heard before in this kind of consumer tuning space. And I think it's a really interesting sound. I like tweaking some of the EQ to kind of lift up the mids just because I like that kind of articulation. But this is a really fun and vibrant presence. And it really comes into its own, in my opinion. It really plays when you start doing things like action movies.
Oh yeah.
You've got like a good techno soundtrack going on, and you've got action and explosions, and the dialogue is still coming in so clear. Just the sound reproduction is a lot of fun. And considering that this is priced sort of square at the market that we would normally point you towards Soundcore, like Liberties.
On the pros, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Liberty Pros. I'm very impressed with what OnePlus has accomplished for a fun consumer earbud. I would not put them up against my fancier IEMs. I think you can still make an argument for like a portable DAC and some like good multi-driver earbuds.
Oh, absolutely.
Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
But all of the niceties of a Bluetooth headset, fast pairing, LHDC is great for high quality audio streaming, low latency that is comparing very well against aptX Adaptive. You can game on these and not suffer too much of that audio lag. And then this new acoustic profile, I don't think OnePlus has ever really gotten the credit they deserve for having these kinds of accessories. All the way back to their neck bands. OnePlus has been pretty solid with audio. Their watch, not great. Their audio solutions, pretty good. And now these are kind of taking that next step up where, again, I can't find any faults here, and they're going toe-to-toe with AirPods Pro and still managing to find a few weaknesses in Apple's solution that they can solve those issues at a dramatically lower price. Because what, the retail on these is $190?
I thought it was 170. I think 179. I could be wrong. I've
got the website. I'm just going to pull it up right now. But the pre-order on the OnePlus Buds 2, 179. You're right. So it was 180.
Because I want to say, I remember seeing them. I was waiting for, at the time of the launch, I waited for them to show up on Amazon because I think Amazon had a landing page for the 11, but not the Buds. And then you could find the OnePlus. So the Buds Pro, the first generation, is down to 149 or 129 or 149. And then this one is 179. It's still pretty decent experience. Again, you're right. Around the Liberty Pro
it's
series.
180.
Yeah. And so for me, it was more like the tuning for this and the audio profile that I got from it was,
it's fun, right?
It's a fun.
It kind of took me by surprise because the first Buds Pro were great, but this pops in a way that
it's
wasn't expecting.
It's I was gonna say not the profile, but like the audio presence is not overpowering but well balanced. You get that
Yeah.
bass, you get that kick when the music is doing it,
Hmm.
and you still feel it, but
It's
it's
punchy.
it
Yeah.
is, but it's not
It's not
soundcore punchy for
rumbly.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't overpower the
So
other channels.
as Jeff would say, I'm totally cribbing Jeff here. If you're one
Yeah,
of his bass heads, I would probably still lean soundcore. Man, if
yeah.
you need the rumble above all else, I feel like that's what
I,
Anchor is really nailing.
and I've said that
This is
before.
more
I am team
dynamic than
soundcore
that.
for that. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
more. I enjoyed them, and I felt like I could enjoy the music, and I enjoy the content, you could definitely see the performance improvement and the tuning that's done there. Also, if you're able to jump into Dolby, especially if your player
Yeah.
supports it, you definitely feel the Dolby Atmos configuration coming up. Um, Gaming was really nice, but in PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, the experience was very clear. Like I can definitely
Hmm.
hear people walking from behind me. It has enough of a seal, even though, like you said, it wasn't all the way in, that it gave me the awareness of where
Yeah.
the game was coming. The one thing that I don't know if you tested out, but I did have a chance to did it multiple times. Their pass-through audio, their awareness mode.
So natural.
Oh my, it felt like
It's
I
so
had no
good.
earbuds in my ear. It was so
Yeah.
good. I was standing and my wife was right in front of me, and all I was wanted to expect was like a tinny or some kind of a distorted processed audio. It felt
Yeah.
like I was listening to her straight up, and I was like,
Again,
wow.
it's neck and neck with the AirPods Pro.
Yeah, but this
It's
is
so
crazy.
good.
It's a leap. It's such a big leap. Like I mean, a lot of us focus on ANC and with the profiles and everything, but like pass through mode though, like the ability or awareness mode, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
that is a key, because when you want to have a conversation, you turn off the music, you turn that on, and you're talking to somebody, not having to take your buds out. This is as close as to not
I,
having your buds on for
so
Android
one of the things
for
that
me. Yeah.
because I'm that obnoxious guy, like with the clackiest of clacky sharp attack keyboards, right?
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
when you do pass through on less expensive microphone solutions on these earbuds, there's almost some kind of ringy or tinny digital artifacting that happens. And I'm typing away on this keyboard, and I'm literally forgetting that I have earbuds in my ears because that pass through is so natural. And one of the only other earbuds that I feel has met that kind of
Yeah.
sharp attack that can on another earbud that can start to become brittle, and
Hmm.
it's a sound that can be kind of piercing or sharp when it's going through a microphone in real time, then getting passed through to the speaker of the earbud. The AirPod Pro do a very good job of handling that incidental, that kind of
Absolutely.
sharp attack, but not
Yep.
piercing your ears with the sound. And the OnePlus Buds Pro 2 are right there with Apple's best solution for about $50 less than what Apple's doing. So in similarly, because again, I want to put these up against AirPod Pros to show the technology has dropped in price, is competitive,
Yeah.
and you get some benefits. Like LHDC is a higher quality codec
I
than
like that.
anything that Apple's going to use.
Yeah.
Did you play with spatial audio
So
and
spatial
head
audio.
tracking?
Okay.
Not just spatial audio,
Head tracking.
spatial audio with head tracking.
I will say, this is our first time for me, and I'm sure for possibly for you as well. We're experiencing, the Google implementation of spatial audio. The feature that this is because during the time that we were testing it and I was pushing out when we posted the videos and stuff, we didn't have spatial audio on Pixel. We didn't have spatial audio. These buds didn't support spatial audio any on other devices other than the OnePlus 11. Um, it worked. It wasn't consistent, and what I mean by
Okay,
this is um, like okay, Amazon Music.
sure,
I've been using them for quite some time. I love their library.
absolutely.
Um, does not work on Amazon Music at all.
Doesn't work with Cobuzz.
Doesn't work. Yeah, so it
Yeah,
is
Cobuzz is
picky.
my jam too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
same,
So
same.
to me it was like, okay, so I posed the question to the team over when we were talking to them at some point, and they're like, so obviously at Netflix, I think if I'm not mistaken, what's it called? Oh my God, the other music service, Spotify. I don't know why I'm like escape.
Yeah,
I've been really bad with names this week.
words are hard when we're tired.
It I'm just trying to make sure I don't say something wrong. This is like, how do like I listen
At
to
this
the show
point, why don't
tomorrow
we just
and we're
say
like,
like
blah, blah, blah,
almost
blah,
everything
blah,
else that
blah.
we're gonna say at this point is probably gonna be incorrect for some terminology
That's
because
it.
we're
Yeah, yeah.
exhausted. But I'm sorry, I
So
interrupted.
yeah, no, no. So for the services that I was able to test it out and use it, it worked beautifully. Tracking
Yeah.
was on point and it worked beautifully. And you have the ability of going in fixed mode or tracking mode. So fixed mode
Yep.
essentially gives you that spatial experience, but it just moves with you. Where head tracking obviously is the sound is stationary and you move around in that space. That
Mm-hmm.
also worked very nicely. And it was nice to feel like, oh, okay, I get it. This is different than Sony's. Sony's been doing 360 for
Yeah,
some time. And I can see where the improvements Sony has. I think it's a beginning, and I think
for sure.
it needs a little bit of work. And again, like I said, the fact that it supports YouTube, it supports YouTube Music,
Yeah.
and like I said, Spotify and Netflix, and I think other streaming
I was
content.
glad you brought up Netflix, but I'm sorry. Go ahead and
Yeah, yeah, because that was because your video just dropped about Netflix, but that's beside the point. You see, I
I wasn't going to
watch.
bring that up at all. But thank you so much for promoting the videos on
No,
some
no,
Gadget
please,
Guys
please do.
channel.
Yeah. So for me, I think that was the biggest thing. I think it's more so about finding the right service that supports it right now, and it didn't seem. The one thing I will say though, switching from your standard profile over to spatial,
Sure.
because the audio is trying to surround you a little bit more and giving you more of that surrounding experience, it
Hmm.
drops in performance a little bit. And what I mean
Yes,
that is
a
it's
lot,
not as
not a
intense.
little.
Yeah,
It changes dramatically.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, wait a minute, why is my audio not sounding the same? And then you remember, oh, I turned on spatial audio. And
Yes.
you have to keep that in mind. The EQ is part, but also spatial audio. If you don't plan on listening to 360 audio and that is not your jam, just keep that feature off. Your audio will perform the way exactly as it did out of the
Sure.
box. But when you do want to try that out, it's actually kind of cute because you set your phone, you set your content, and you turn around, and it's literally like the speaker is still sitting there,
There's
and
an
you get that
audio source.
there's an
Right.
audio source moving, and it's trippy the first couple of times you do it, but then after a while you're like, okay, I get it.
So I'm really glad you brought up Netflix
Yeah.
because I am not a fan of running stereo music through spatial manipulation.
Yeah.
Tracks that were mixed for spatial audio, specifically were created for a spatial listening experience, I think sound pretty good.
Yeah.
I really do not like when I've got music that was built specifically for left channel, right channel, and you
Insert 5.1 channel. Yeah.
ratchet
Oh,
it
yeah.
to try
Yeah.
and make it a spatial audio experience. I think a great example would be Daft Punk is so good
Yeah.
at taking left channel, right channel, and creating an audio experience around you. Running Daft Punk through spatial manipulation always sounds wrong. I think another good group for that, I bring them up and you see them on camera a lot in my reviews, is Tool.
Oh yeah.
Tool, the way they mix their drum kit is expansive and immersive, and that illusion of space is ruined when you just force it through some kind of spatial audio software processing.
Mhm.
But I was really glad that you brought up Netflix because the experience of movies and dialogue, I feel, work better even if we're not getting a true proper 5.1 mix and it's not always the right, signal to that. Even if I'm listening to a movie that is one of like my older DVD rips and
Mhm.
I didn't have like the full 5.1 mix on that DVD rip, when you ratchet movie soundtracks, that illusion works better.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is like the audio performance suffers is you have to think of like what happens when you take a stereo track and you try and make it surround sound. You've got to apply all of these panning and reverb effects
Mhm.
to try and make it feel like there's a
Like it's
stereo widening effect happening. So you end up kind of gutting the middle EQ because that's where a lot of that kind of reverberation will happen.
Mhm.
So immediately it sounds weaker or thinner
Yeah.
because we're kind of cutting into the space. When you think about where echoes come from, if I want to
Mhm.
make a reflection trap, I need to put a lot of mass into the corners of a room. I
Yeah.
used to do a lot of studio reinforcement and like home recording stuff. So you put these bass traps to help cut that reverberation. But that's also where we get our spatial location. That's where we get our spatial information from our ears.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to gut the low mids and the lows to then reapply different echo effects in the reverb to get you back to that point. Doesn't work for me for music unless the music was crafted specifically multi-track,
specifically
surround sound
360 or spatial audio tracks. Yeah.
But a movie can handle that a little bit better, and it often helps dialogue become center channel audio again. It kind of helps lift dialogue out of. So, have you tried watching Tenet with spatial on?
I didn't. No, I didn't get. I've seen it, but I didn't get a chance. I gotta rewatch it. Yeah.
Is such a miserable movie to listen to in stereo,
especially when he's doing that revert. The whole, the voice
works pretty well with spatial because of the way that spatial audio starts to cut into the frequencies of the sound mix. The sound mix was designed for movie theaters, not for your home audio setup. So, one of the other things that bugs me about spatial audio is surround sound doesn't work for me as a fake solution when it's perfectly tracking, when it's perfectly bolted to my head. So what I mean is like, I'm hearing surround sound audio,
but you don't.
Well, when I listen to surround sound audio, right. When I listen to surround sound audio on a good surround sound setup, the speakers do not move with my head. My head moves through the path of the audio that's coming from those speakers, but those speakers are directional sources. So there's a speaker right in front of me, that's the center channel. There are two left and right channels in front of me. There are satellites out to the sides, and they're fixed sources. They're fixed points of acoustic energy. And when I move my head through those waves of sound, my brain is saying, "Oh, okay, but there are positions that audio is coming from." Spatial audio has always failed for me because when I move my head, it's like all of the speakers in the room are floating perfectly with my head. And that's not surround sound. That immediately gives up the illusion that something is happening. It immediately destroys the magic trick, right? Yeah. But once we add head tracking to a pair of earbuds, and I set up my phone in my kitchen, and I'm watching a movie on my phone while I cook dinner. I was doing it today. We had a lovely chickpea quinoa dish. It was delightful with a little pan-seared broccoli to kind of go with it. It was really good.
Sounds delicious.
While I'm cooking dinner, the movie is coming from one direction, and as I turn my head, the head tracking shifts the audio as if the direction of the movie was the source of the sound. Exactly. That helps sell the illusion of surround sound so much better. Absolutely. It is phenomenal. And again, there's the AirPod Pros that pull off this head tracking trick, and I have a pair of One More earbuds. These aren't crazy expensive either. I think these are $120 earbuds that also have One More's flavor of this kind of head tracking.
Yeah.
It takes spatial audio up to the next level of realism. If you're a guy like me who used to really finesse, like even my computer, I had like creative speakers, sound blasters. I had the 7.1 setup with all of the little satellites, and I would sit there and tune and position. Okay, well, this one needs to move over. I need to get a different wall bracket because I need to aim the rear satellites at a different angle. Like when you would finesse that, now I can just kind of pull that off with a pair of earbuds. It's kind of ridiculous.
And it is.
I'm really enjoying this.
The buds were a very pleasant surprise because physically they kind of like initially when we first looked at them and they look very similar to the ones from last year.
I would be shocked if they used a different case. It's almost exactly the same.
It's almost exactly the same. So yeah, so from an audio profile, from a configuration standpoint, and at least with Google's latest update, now they're featuring similar experiences on Pixels as well as on OnePlus devices.
Hmm.
So and I'm very happy to see what they're doing, and I would think
Yeah.
um, the overall performance, like I said, it's definitely dynamic, and it has the punches, it has the kicks, it has the snares, it has the sound, and it has the vocals, and it balances them much better than what we've seen before. And I think, like like you said yourself, yeah, if you want a bass heavy one, I think Soundcore is still going to be
I'd go
the
Anchor.
still, yeah, absolutely, Anchor Soundcore for the win. There's no
But
question.
this is sort of driving competition in an interesting way where like I really like my One More Evos.
Yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah.
I'm getting down into the minutia of like, do you want a deeper insert earbud, or do you not like earbuds that have the stalk that kind of hangs off the side, or
Hmm.
like my Freebirds? Do you want 9 hours of battery life on a charge, or do you want 12 hours of battery life on a charge? Because like
Dude, for the,
we've got to like drill down. Like we now have such a variety of different options and features at prices that are now more comparable around this. This is premium. This is an expensive product. It's
yeah,
nearly
yeah,
$200. That is
absolutely.
not a cheap impulse buy.
No.
Like you're getting something kind of up the food chain here. So you expect that there's going to be something that pushes it to make it worth that kind of an investment. And now we've got to kind of make some of these more nuanced
Hmm.
kinds of comparisons. I really like my Freebirds. Great single driver earbuds. The main win for them would be the battery life. That
Yeah.
they're still, I think, some of the longest running earbuds with these higher quality codecs. They don't have head tracking. They don't have as nice an ambient pass through mode. I mean, like, man, we're really able to kind of jump down and like pick and choose very specific features that might win someone over into making a purchasing decision.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like summarize it, I think it's a pleasure to enjoy listening audio on it, and I think the overall improvements
Yeah, they're
there
fun.
were they're very very fun. And yeah, on my trip to New York, I had them charged. I think it was like the case was 60%, and the buds were 100. Didn't even need to charge them, and I was on them
No.
for like the whole flight going up, coming back
Yeah.
in like after the event. As I was walking around New York, I had the buds in my ear. I was walking around. That was literally all I do. There's nothing to do. um
Yeah.
and I didn't even kill
They're
the case. I still
almost
haven't charged
they're
them. They're still in, actually.
they're almost doubling the earbud battery life over the AirPods Pro.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been rocking
So ANC to
my
ANC.
Pixel case.
Oh, hey, look at that. That's great. Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, it came up for well, it's part of the birthday thing. Google sent it out. I got the case. I was like, dude, that is so nice. Let me see here. Yeah, I was trying to just double check and see how much battery life I still have left on them, because the buds are still 100 and the case is 40%. So it's like it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's just it's tough to like, and the fact, then dual connection, that was the other thing. It's dual
Yeah.
simultaneous connection. It's not one or the other. It's about yeah, so when I was running it on the 11 and the Pixel 7, it the whole time I was able to
The
jump between
handoff
one.
is
Yeah, the
seamless.
hand up seamless and
Yeah.
clean. So a lot of kudos there that has to be given to OnePlus and what we have with the Plus Pro 2. um and definitely a good upgrade from last year's generation, but it's still, from any other buds on the market right now, it's hard to compare, other than maybe the Buds Pro, the Pixel Buds Pro, because they also
Hmm.
have the higher. It's again, but they're pros. They also have spatial
Yeah.
audio as well, and they bring in some of those experiences. But it's good.
But I mean, but that again, it is such a killer fight. I can put these up against AirPods
Yeah, I
for
can.
$50 less, almost double the battery life,
Mhm.
and nearly comparable performance on every other single metric. And I think the only other thing that the AirPods might handle just a little more gracefully would be multi-pairing across like 3 devices. Like if
Yeah,
you
but
went phone and tablet and laptop,
and
then
yeah,
I feel like in the Apple ecosystem that makes
Goo-
more sense. But in
Google's
the Android
Fast Connect
ecosystem,
though. Yeah,
going dual connect with a higher quality codec over AAC, and I think we've got an incredible competitor.
I think that was the other thing. It doesn't support anything above AAC on non-Pixel device. Sorry, on non-OnePlus devices. That was the other thing. You needed
I
OnePlus
need
to
to
get
try.
LHDC.
I need to try the OnePlus Buds with a Xiaomi because the first generation
Oh,
OnePlus Buds
had
had
LHDC first.
LHDC, and the
First, yeah,
first phone that actually supported it was my Mi 11.
yeah.
And so it was embarrassing. It took
It
like
was
another 2 months for the
LH.
OnePlus 10 to get
Yeah,
updated for
they
LHDC
announced the LHDC codec and they did not support it for some time. Xiaomi
for a
walked in and
while.
just like,
Yeah.
hold my beer. Let me show you how to do it. And you're like, yeah, it
Yeah,
works on a Xiaomi.
there was about a 6 week period last year where Xiaomi phones supported everything, and they
Yeah,
were the only phone, and premium tier, they were
I
the only phone that supported like the newest versions of aptX,
yeah.
LDAC, LHDC, like Bluetooth LE 5.2, I think at the time. It was just hilarious. It was like there was I had one phone that I was using for all the it's because I knew it had compatibility for all of it.
And speaking of Xiaomi, which is the other thing, I think I saw earlier today that it looks like they're going to have some announcements. So hopefully the 13 series is coming or will be coming
Going international, yeah,
international finally, which is typically what they do. They usually have it, in China first, and then later on they'll release
for
it. So
sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I'm still rocking the Vivo X90. I have
It's so good.
gracefully retired the X70 Pro Plus, and that 1-inch sensor is just
So good.
so good. Like
Yeah.
I have enough pictures of New York now that I think I can just create a short video just talking about all the pictures I took with the X90 Pro in New York, walking around, nighttime, daytime, all of that stuff. So anyway, I mean, I still have to kind of put together the video for that. I realized the video that I posted last week was purely more of an intro into what I got, kind of a
Hmm.
general understanding what the X90 Pro
Same.
is. Yeah,
We
yeah,
had it for a
because
day.
it was like not even a day. I was a surprise. It was a surprise Dropbox for me. I come back and it was like bam. I'm like, okay. Um, but yeah, no, because I took it with me when I went to New York, because I also wanted to take some pictures with it. I did a reel from it. I did content. So I'm really starting to leverage the performance improvements that this is providing, and it's exciting to see the leap, because I never saw X80. So I'm going from a 70 to a 90,
Yeah,
and it's a massive jump.
that's a
So
good
for me,
jump.
it's and of course, yeah. So overall, a lot of things to cover. February is barely, what is today? The 7th, the
We're a
8th?
weekend. Yeah,
We're
or the
weekend. Yeah.
ninth.
So exactly. We're almost at the 1/3 of the month, and we still have a lot of things to talk about. But so for me right now, it's an easy recommendation for the 11, an easy recommendation for the Pro 2s. And if you're considering or have any questions, please make sure to check out our coverage. Juan did a nice approach to covering his OnePlus 11 with multiple smaller segments as opposed to longer form video. And I felt like
My
I think
first
that
draft on a OnePlus 11 video was 35 minutes long, and I went,
uh,
no, no, I don't think I'll do that. I think I'm gonna carve this up into smaller pieces,
and it makes
and
it
that's
makes
what we
perfect
did.
sense. And I think
Yeah,
I should definitely start following in. I
I mean,
shorter
YouTube's still
form to
gonna
the
bury it
point.
no matter what.
Oh
I mean,
no,
at this point, it
absolutely.
doesn't even matter.
You're going out
But
the gate. You're going out the gate against. Yeah, I know. I realize they'll be like, he's not popular enough. But no, as long as we're able to, as long as our voice is able to be heard and we have the ability of conveying our message, I think we're still doing something that we enjoy. And I think that's the main point of it. If we're not
yeah,
enjoying what we do, what's the point?
no, I
So I
think for
think,
both of us, the
yeah,
main point is kind of consolidating less on whether or not we care about YouTube metrics and more just do we have the fun
yeah,
lunchroom table to geek out at,
and getting the message out to,
and that's probably better.
absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. On the buds and the 11, I did them separately as videos, and on the English side, and the one thing, okay, I was trying to say that before. So one of the biggest things that OnePlus announced that I was super excited, and it doesn't really impact the US because it's not, they're in the US market, they're in Europe, they're in Asia. They're actually officially going to the Middle East. They finally
Yeah,
officially now have sales channels in Saudi Arabia. It's a big thing, because that was the biggest thing I always used to get on my videos in the Arabic side. Why don't we get it? When do we get them? It's almost like a Pixel, right? Like Google doesn't
Yeah.
sell their phones there. You always have to get it imported. And now OnePlus is finally going in. So that was exciting. And I'll shut up from there because I think I was the only one at the event in New York that when they said launching in Saudi Arabia, start saying the price, I was like, yeah,
Woohoo!
and everybody turned. It's like, why is he excited about that? Because obviously you don't watch my Arabic channel, my friend. But no, there was a lot of good things, and then of course OnePlus had the keyboard. We're going to hopefully find out more in April, and a OnePlus
Tablet
tablet,
looks
a
clean.
pad.
Yeah.
That looks crazy nice. Like
Looks
some of
really
them,
nice.
it's a premium tablet with a pen and a dock. Like
Yeah.
seriously gunning for like the iPad. But I also feel like they're trying to play a little bit of a game, trying to release and announce things ahead of Google because Google should be dropping the you know the what's it called, the Tensor 2 powered tablet, the Pixel tablet sometime very soon. I mean, we're not hearing a lot of rumble around it, but should be coming out soon, first quarter if I'm not mistaken. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, but I think OnePlus is looking at Google's strategy.
Yeah,
Like Samsung didn't learn anything from the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7 wrecking the value proposition of the FE.
yeah, yeah.
And
It was
OnePlus
tougher.
is looking at that market saying, hey, you know what? Samsung and Apple are most vulnerable there. So if the rumors on a Google tablet coming out are, hey, this is going to be sort of a Tensor 2 powered tablet the year that Tensor 3 might come out,
Hmm.
and we know that it's not going to be the mostest expensive tablet on the market, but it's going to offer these like high performance features.
Hmm.
They were really smart to get out ahead of what Google might offer in that space. They're not going after the Galaxy Tab
Oh,
S9 Ultra. They're going after a Pixel Tab.
it's
That is
yeah.
a better place to start fighting this fight for a lot of consumers.
And I feel like it was the right approach to kind of keep it in check. So that was my thing. As I was listening to the announcement, as we got a chance to see the color and the display, the technology they're doing, their distinctive aspect ratio that they're also going with for reading purposes. There's some excitement to find out, and then of course we'll have to see what they have for MWC as well. So this
Yeah.
is where I really, really, really am. I can't say how excited I am enough about how excited I am to try to go to MWC this year, because for me, so many exciting things are going to happen there. I'm going to be extremely exhausted. I'm going to be tired. I hope I don't get
Hmm.
any kind of weird bug or whatever. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, we're 10,
It's
literally,
big.
we're 17 days away roughly from the beginning
It's
of the
going to be
show on the
real big.
27th. Yeah. Yeah. And then, and I'm also looking forward to see what some of the companies are doing, Honor, Xiaomi, Oppo, OnePlus, all of them. So, I realized this show today was one of our nice long ones. I didn't think it was
Yeah,
going to
we
be
had
that
a bit
long.
to
I
talk
thought we were
about.
gonna, yeah, I thought it was going to be a chill, take it easy. But yeah, no. I want to say first and foremost, thank you to everybody for hanging out with us. And I want to say, of course, I'm happy that we're still able to do the show and you guys enjoy it, because it's a lot of fun on our side. And again, even though we were exhausted, there's a lot of things going on. It's still
Yeah.
just being in the show gives that excitement and the energy level just to kind of bring us back into things. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the support, and of course, make sure to check out Juan on Monday with the SGGQA. This was also a co-hosted again as an Android Bay, and for the most part, the Android Bay's home is now on Thursday nights. I think for the most part, I feel like I just need to keep it there,
I mean, it's
and
the
yeah, it's the right thing. It works. It works out to our favor. So be safe, stay safe. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week for another episode. And of course, we'll see you on the interwebs, the Twitters, the YouTubes, and the comments. So take care, everybody.
it's good times.
Always.